Hello everybody, welcome to the Red Devil Experience. My name is Eric, hope everybody is doing well. We got large big updates surrounding Manchester United after the fallout of the loss for the Europa League match yesterday versus Tottenham. A lot of questions. I think there's a lot more questions than answers really at this current moment in time and what's surrounding United, but there is sort of a certain cloud, sort of a storm starting to bubble around some things that seem to kind of be boiling over, to be quite honest, surrounding players like Bruno Fernandez and Garnacho and many other members of the Manchester United squad. Obviously, many people in the fan base, or all the fan base, still very upset and kind of reeling. Because, yesterday it wasn't just about like a loss to Tottenham in a Europa League final, but it also had huge indications and impact on what it means for the future of the current manager, the current project that's supposed to be in play at Manchester United, and just the general future for the club itself, and maneuverability, and how you necessarily try to move forward as a club from this position that we're in, finishing 16th in the Premier League and not being able to maybe necessarily make the transfers that we were all hoping to get. So I mean, we got a lot of stuff to get into. There's a lot of stuff around Garnacho, there's a lot of stuff around Bruno, some things about Amorim. Kobe Mainu has been mentioned, Rasmus Højlund has been mentioned, Anthony, Sancho, and Manchester United in general when it comes to the finances and stuff like that. So we're going to get into all of this sort of thing. Please make sure you smash the like button because it helps the channel grow and we greatly appreciate it. It takes 2 seconds of your time, and it's a massive help. So make sure you do that at the very least. And we're on our way to 3,000 subscribers. We're at 2,967. That hasn't updated yet and it hasn't caught up, but we are on our way. So if you want to help us out there, subscribe. If you're not a subscriber, make sure you hit the notification bell icon because we always go live during the week, and we'll be live during the the transfer window as well throughout the week. So you don't want to miss the lives. You want to stay up to date. You want to be here when we start the show so you get all the information. And another announcement, I believe somewhere on the channel, it should be that we do have not subscriptions, but memberships. The memberships, I believe, have gone live. They should be there somewhere. I don't know. I can't really see them. But I believe that they should be there somewhere. So if you want to become a member, you get access to some cool perks. We got some emojis in there. You get access to that. You get a little badge next to your name that we've custom made. They change by colors. There's different tiers. I believe there's red, white, blue, and then there is bronze, silver, and gold for now. So Lyle, our moderator, has confirmed that it is live. So all right, excellent enough. We'll talk about a little bit more of that a little bit later, but I want to get into the show. Give me 2 seconds because I silly enough forgot to put out the post about the live on X here, and I want to promote it, so I need to do that real quick before we start the show. So just give me a second, because this does help. It actually, these have been hitting quite good recently, and they have been bringing in traction, so we do need to get these in here. Manchester United, I mean, listen, at least the club is kind of getting a from what I can see, the club is getting sort of kind of the hint right now. I mean, Manchester United Twitter account is silent. The last thing they posted was about George Best. It would have been his 79th birthday today, so happy birthday to the great and late George Best. That was the last thing they posted, and that was 8 hours ago, and that's quite that's not usually United's thing. That's not usually United's thing. So obviously, at least at the very least, they're sort of reading the room here at the current moment in time. So but enough of babbling, and let's get into the news, which is the most important thing. So we're going to start off with Ruben Amorim. A couple things about Ruben. Number one thing that came out, Ben Jacobs came out, said Ruben Amorim retains the backing of the Manchester United board and the club are not expected to make a change this summer. That was followed up by Fabrizio Romano also stating that the message from the club is clear. They will stick with Ruben Amorim and support him. And following that up, it also went into Ruben Amorim will have a budget of over £100 million, apparently, even without winning the Europa League. This figure is expected to be boosted by sales. Manchester United believe they can raise £100 million on top of that from the sales of Anthony, Rashford, and Sancho. We have to talk about this because this is sort of, I think there's some discrepancies. That's from the Times Sport. They are credible. But listen, at the current moment in time, yesterday, I don't know about you guys. I think it was kind of the same for lots of people out there around the world. It was tough to sleep. Head was spinning about United. I went out there. I don't do it too often anymore. I used to do it a lot, but I went out there. I listened to some of the other channels and fans giving opinions on other channels, just trying to gauge kind of, what was maybe the consensus of the real feeling and what people were thinking and stuff like that. And kind of just pull things maybe to give a thought about and maybe get a little bit of direction or so. And, for me, one of the things that I kind of got out of it that keeps going in my mind is at the current moment in time, Ineos and Manchester United really have only two choices, the way I see it. They either sack Ruben Amorim if they cannot figure out a way to provide what the plan was prior to losing the 100 million yesterday, or they figure out how to provide a way to do what they're going to do and stick with him. Because if they stick with him, which they are, so that's the route they're going down. But really, there's only two ways that I really see this. You either sack him and you go in a different direction than they're going, because we have financial difficulties and we're not going to be able to do maybe sort of what they were saying. But there's also sort of a course of action that they can do. But now things are changing. And this is, for me, one of the big things is if you're going to go with Ruben Amorim and you're going to stick with him and you're going to try and still do what you were planning, which is a major overhaul at Manchester United, a player clear out, and really a bigger actual rebuild and get different players in for him that actually can play for him, but also that actually can compete in the Premier League. Things are not going to be the same. I think Bruno Fernandez being sold and transferred out of the club has to be a much more realistic option. It has to be given a lot more thought, and it has to be given a lot more credibility at this point in time. I think before this happening, before us losing this 100 million, I think maybe there was a possibility where we could kind of have our cake and eat it too. But to go down this path that they want to go down and that they believe in and that they're backing, the biggest thing for me is we've lost 100 million yesterday. Where do you make the 100 million up? Because that 100 million was a big key, crucial piece for this thing that they want to do with Ruben Amorim. And the 100 million is not Rashford, like they've mentioned here. It's not Rashford, it's not Anthony, and it's not Sancho, and it's not Garnacho, because that was already part of that plan with that other 100 million. So you have to now figure out where you're going to get this 100 million from. And for me, there's only a couple options, really. Number one, it's the sale of Bruno Fernandez. because you would acquire 100 million, and that was something that you weren't going to do. You were going to keep Bruno and kind of build or continue to build with him in the team. But now things have to change. The plan has to change. Things have to change in the plan because you have to get that 100 million. Ineos cannot listen, they're making cuts. The club is bleeding money all over the place. We're losing money everywhere. We're reporting losses 4, 5, 6 years in a row. We've lost 450 million over the last 4 years in, as a total. We're not profitable in any sort of way. The bleeding has to stop somewhere. But also at the same time, they cannot be cheap when it comes to improving the team. They must invest, they must spend money, and they must figure out a way to spend as much money as possible. Now, I know people don't really like that, and some people have PTSD because we've blown $1 billion, but it's the straight, cold, hard facts that if we're not in Europe and we're not in a position for leverage in terms of a project where other clubs are more appealing and they're getting into places where they are looking better and they're looking like a stronger project, and on top of that they are also getting the money that we are not getting, we are falling further behind. We will continue to fall further behind if they don't go out and spend money. They must spend money to improve the squad because that's the way we make more money as a football club. So the cuts that they're making, I mean, from a business aspect, I get that. But at the same time, it needs to translate to the football side in terms of these players that are here have clearly failed this football club. These players clearly aren't good enough. And these players also need to lose their jobs. They cannot continue and carry on at Manchester United. And they've clearly let us down. They clearly cannot be trusted, ever. And I really do feel like, barring maybe a small handful of players, nobody should really be safe at this football club anymore. And it's time to clean it out, and it's time to clear it out. Because after yesterday, I can never trust this group of players ever again. I can't. And some of them are the big names. I can't. They're done. They've monumentally fucked everything up for themselves, but also for the club. Some of the performance out there yesterday was diabolical. So they need to sort this shit out. And let's be real. Let me jump to the chat real quick, and I'll jump back over to the updates. But Axe says first comment glazes out. I mean, we're always in agreement with that, 100%. I mean, the Glazers out. I hope they leave. I mean, just speaking on the Glazers real quick, United's stock price has dropped 8% after yesterday. So they're not happy campers. I know that for sure because, they only care about the money. So Jim's lost money as well with his investment because he bought shares at, I think it was like $32 a share or something. It's, below that now. So he's lost money as well. Access Armor, the whole season has been a humiliation. We need radical change. We absolutely do. And it starts with the playing squad. 100%. Access Amorim is the most excused manager in the history of football. He needs to go. I mean, I don't think he is. To a certain extent, I don't. I think some of the circumstances are fair play. I don't think he is that excused. I think some of the circumstances that he came into are really, a lot of them are out of his hand. I mean, he's nothing special in terms of he's just another manager that was brought in here that is failing and that is struggling, just like every other single manager that was here before him. And those circumstances are not the creation of his doing in terms of that, the mitigating factors outside of the performances on the pitch to a certain degree. The group of players that we have, the recruitment, these things were all done before he came here. That has nothing to do with him. The club having a bad sort of ethos and, mentality that was here before him. He didn't create this sort of thing. So, there's a lot of things there. He didn't create these things. He's walked into this situation. And as I've always said, one man ain't going to walk in here and fix it. These problems go way deeper into the football club. These problems have been rooted at the football club for years now. And it's time. It's time to put up or get out, really. I mean, Ineos have monumentally fucked this up in their own doing. They have no other responsibility but to try and completely reverse this. And I don't even know if that's possible, but really it's the only job and the only responsibility that they have at the current moment. They fired Dan Ashworth and they bring in Ruben Amorim in the midst of a season. They knew very well, and these are the experts. They knew very well that he plays one style that is incompatible with the team. They went ahead with this plan. He has struggled monumentally. He's had the worst record. We've had the worst season ever in Manchester United's history, ever. Even the point that we got relegated. But, I mean, we should have gotten relegated if it wasn't for the fact that we have money more than, these clubs that are coming up. That's the only thing that saves us. The money gap has saved us monumentally. But, I mean, 6 wins he's gotten since a period of time. We have, 39 points or 40 points. So it's gone absolutely, probably the worst possible thing that it could have went. It's gone for Ineos and for Amorim. Now, Amorim's not going to quit, and he said this, and Ineos can't really, to be quite fair, I don't think they can really afford to sack him, money-wise. I mean, I don't know if they can. Many people make this argument that they really can't afford to sack him. I mean, he said he'll go, if they want him out, he'll go without compensation. Which I respect for saying that, because I get it. Because to him, it means it's not about the money. It means more to him, and he really is hurt by this, and his pride is hurt by this. But at the same time, I'd probably tell him, fuck that. Take the money, because they're the assholes that have created this situation. He wanted to come here. He wanted to come here in the summer. They made an ultimatum of, you either come now or never. And I can't really blame him for taking the opportunity. When it is presented. Sometimes you only get one shot. Sometimes you only get one opportunity. And if you deny it, you may not get another chance. So I don't really blame him for that. But he has, had poor results and poor performances. And it's gone very, very bad. And now he has less. The fallout from yesterday is that if he won it, he would have had more time. He would have had more belief in him. He would have had more hope. Now, all of that is much, much less across the board. So, very cool icons, he says. Yes, and that's only a couple. We have some more. The badges are the badges, but we have some more emojis as well. We just can't put in any more. So, Lumen says it was Amorim's mistaken fault. For the match yesterday, 100%. He got a lot of things wrong yesterday. He, the tactics were wrong. The lineup was wrong. He should have made the subs sooner, because we weren't getting anything out of that team. And I think he misread it, because even going by his comments after the match, he said in the second half, we took more hold of the game, but it was like, yeah, but we took more hold of the game because Tottenham went ultra defense, fucking park the bus, Jose Mourinho style. So obviously, you're going to get more grasp of a game if they're just dropping off and letting you hold the possession. The point that everybody was trying to make was, it wasn't about getting the ball, getting more of a foothold in their half with the ball. It was about the fact that we couldn't figure out how to get through, and things needed to change on the pitch, and he took too long to do them. So, I mean, but he is responsible for this, and I'll get this later on to Bruno Fernandez for one of my things that I need to say. But Richard is here as well. Lions is here. Lyle is here. Shout out to all you guys. Richard says sack him. Well, I mean, listen, I need to say, like, we're not going to fight about sacking him or not sacking him. If you want him to be sacked, you want him to be sacked. If you don't want him to be sacked, you don't want him to be sacked. At the end of the day, whether I want him to be sacked or not isn't going to make him get sacked. The current fact of it is that they're going with him. That's what they've said. They're going to stick with him, and this is the path we're going down. So you can disagree with that. That's perfectly fine, and you can voice your opinion about how you think that's wrong and stuff like that, but there's no reason for us to fight between each other, because at the end of the day, if somebody says Amorim out, or somebody says Ruben Amorim in, it's not, it's not gonna change anything. It's not gonna go to Sajim or something and convince them to go one way or the other way, the way that it is. So, Lumen says, because of favoritism, Amorim made a wrong lineup, bad in-game management, and late substitutions. I mean, no. Listen, there's nobody can say yesterday, or today, nobody can say about yesterday that he didn't get multiple things wrong, because he 100% did. And, at the time, it's... after in hindsight, obviously it comes out, and it's always a little bit easier for people to say, well, he should have done this and he should have done that. I will point out, listen, when the lineup came out, and this is how I try to be fair, and it's not excuses, but what I'm saying is, to be fair, to be even-handed, when the lineup came out, there was some people that were slightly a little bit concerned, but the majority of people, especially online, they were quite happy with that lineup. They were quite excited by that lineup. I think what happened, like Lumen has mentioned, was that when we got into the match and we started watching the match, many people realized, hey, this shit ain't working and it needs to be changed. And he took quite too long to change it. And even his comments about changing it was the opposite of what the rest of the fan base was saying. He talked about, we got more of a foothold in the game. You don't make substitutions for the sake of making substitutions. I made the changes when I felt like the team needed to be changed. And our argument was, well, clearly you didn't see it quick enough, or you clearly weren't looking in the right place, because we were all saying the changes needed to come much earlier because the team wasn't doing enough. So there's that sort of discrepancy going on in there as well. Andresito09 says, players at fault for not showing up, but also Amorim picked these 11 and did not sub till the 70th and 90th minute. This is unforgivable. I'm sorry. I'm sure he's incredible, but he underestimated Spurs. No, I mean, listen, it's a fair thing to say. It's a fair thing to say. There's nothing you can't, nobody can really defend him from yesterday. And nobody can defend really anybody from yesterday. There's no defending the players. There's no defending Amorim for the way things went yesterday and how these things have gone on. I mean, yesterday it was him. He made multiple mistakes. He got multiple things wrong. And the players didn't turn up, and they were also shit. And this is what I always say. It's a culmination. We are, at the end of the day, we are a football club. It's not one man. It's not one player. It's everybody together. And when the manager fucks up and the players fuck up, it's a giant disaster. And this has been happening for quite some time. I mean, Ten Hag, it happened to him as well. He would do things that were strange or weird or didn't work or people didn't agree with. But then also at the same time, the players on the pitch were shit and they weren't showing up either. It's not just for them two. It goes for basically almost every manager that's been here. Actually, every manager for real. So, Richard says, I was so disappointed with last night. However, we need to go forward. Well, I mean, 100%, Richard, I do agree. I mean, somehow, some way, we need to find a way to go forward. We need to figure out what is the path forward, because there's just no other option, really. If we don't do that, then just, fold the club and call it a day. Which I don't think, even as bad as people feel, I don't think anybody really necessarily wants that. So you have to try and figure out a path forward. And this is what we're really going to be talking about. And it's still early doors because, it's only a day after. And there's still a lot of uncertainty. There's still a lot of question marks. Things are coming out, and it's raising more questions than it is answering stuff. I will say, though, I think one of the responsibilities that Ineos has to take upon themselves is somebody at the top of this football club needs to come out of the fucking shadows, and they must talk to the fans, because it is their responsibility. They have set this project. They have gone and done the decisions that they've made, and it has led us to the point that we are at. And after yesterday, it is the responsibility of one of these guys, and I don't care who it is, but one of them, Omar, Wilcox, Sir Jim, whoever, I really don't give a shit, but it's their responsibility to come out and make a statement to the fans, at the very least. Whether people buy it or not, it's still something that they should do, and that they must do. They must tell us. They must say things. And hiding and not coming out and putting shit out through journalists with some, quotation of some sources or club sources. We're always going to get that, but it's not the responsible thing to do. In my opinion, it's not the correct thing to do. United fans are reeling. Everybody feels like the club is an absolute freefall and it's on its deathbed. Some people are saying the club is dead and died years ago. And it is their responsibility to try and at least set the story straight and set the narrative straight with a little bit of direction and a little bit of like a thought process. That's their job as people that are in charge of this football club, and they have to come out and do it. And so far, nothing. I mean, it's been real quiet. It's real quiet. So, the clock is broken. No, it's not. Oh. Andresito says we can blame Ineos and Glazers, but they don't pick these starting 11 and make late subs, while Spurs were clearly reading out of plays like how to for dummies and books. No, I mean, listen, obviously you have to compartmentalize things. There's things that the Glazers and Ineos are at fault for that go hand in hand with other things that go on throughout the season or Manchester United in general. But I mean, at the same time, you are correct. Like, Ineos and the Glazers didn't pick the starting 11 yesterday. They weren't on the pitch playing the game. So for those things, they obviously can't be blamed. But there's blame all around, everywhere. And this is the message I try to put across. It's fine if you want to give blame to whoever, but don't get caught up in being so tunnel vision, because the problems, and especially the root cause of the problems, is the big major ones. Because until you get those roots, those weeds, right? It's like your lawn when you have a weed problem. Until you hit all those roots, they're gonna keep popping up. Even if you pluck one out, there's another one over there, or another one will sprout in its place. So until we attack basically the root causes of the problem, sacking the manager isn't really gonna solve the majority of the problems. It might solve some little problems. It might make a difference in some aspects, but it's not gonna take you back necessarily to the top. Removing, just Bruno or one player because you think he's shit. Like, people like Rasmus hate Rasmus, and saying getting rid of Rasmus will make us so much better. I mean, it'll improve us to a certain extent, but it's not going to solve all the other problems. So just tackling one issue isn't it's not going to solve our problems. This club is in deep shit. this club is in deep shit at the current moment in time, and it's not really looking good, to be quite honest. So Lyle says it's going to be a very interesting summer. How Ineos are going to get shit done is beyond me, but I can't lie, it is so intriguing to me that I want the window to open now. Well, I mean, it definitely isn't going to be a boring summer. It might be one that, you know, you didn't really, it might not be the one that we wanted to a certain extent in terms of, you know, signing all these players like Gyökeres and, you know, whatever other elite players you want. It might go very differently, but it's not going to be one that's boring because it can't. I mean, the club at the current moment in time, they don't have too many options. And I think if they don't take this opportunity and chance now to really kind of fully reset the club, I mean the team, not the club, because the fully reset the club would be the Glazers getting 100% complete new ownership. The team, removing these players, having a massive clear out, I think this is probably the best chance we got. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. If we won the Europa League, maybe some of the cracks would have got papered over. Maybe some of the players that we now must and decide to move on, maybe they would have stayed. Maybe now they can't stay. Maybe now we have to be a little bit more extreme in the selling of players. And maybe the focus is ramped up more. That's the hope. I don't know how effective they're going to be, like Lyle says. I mean, you know, it's hard to kind of see and tell how Ineos, to quote Lyle, are going to get shit done. Because the job was already going to be difficult with the Champions League and the Europe and the money. We don't have those things now. So the position that we're in is much more difficult. The position that Ineos are in is even harder than it already was. And it was already difficult. It wasn't a walk in the park. There was still a lot of things that were broken, needed to happen, and needed to be fixed. So, I mean, it is a problem going forward. So, I mean, we have more updates. We're going to get to it, but I just want to get you guys involved first. So, Steph is here as well. Elias says to seize everything you ever wanted. And yeah, no, but for real, like you sometimes you only get one opportunity, one shot, you know, lose yourself by Eminem. I mean, straight facts. Rajad is here and Box is here. Shout out to you guys. Everybody's here today. I'm glad, actually. I'm glad. Axe says Amorim doesn't understand English football. Well, I mean, that's probably a fair point. I mean, you know, he has no real experience with anything about English football, and he's a young manager in that certain aspect, so he is fairly inexperienced. So I think that's probably part of the problems as to why he's struggled. I think he has an idea, but he doesn't have the experience of it. You know, it's not like he coached in the championship, got to learn on his way there before coming to United. He just jumped from league to league. So, I mean, yeah. Says Cunha's average now. Fox says the United job is a poison chalice. I mean, essentially, yeah. Rajat says Eric Ten Hag is going to Bayer Leverkusen. Yeah, apparently. Apparently. Rajat says Man U makes Ronaldo look bad when he came in 21, 22. I mean, no, we're not going to talk about that. Grace says Amorim is going to destroy our football club. One style of play tactically being destroyed by every other manager. Needs a whole new team. Can't coach the players to be better. He deserves the sack. Well, you know what? I mean, listen, for what's gone on, I mean, let's be fair. If it was, you know, any other manager and it was not our club, you know, it's hard to see how he doesn't get sacked. For the results. I mean, you know, I was kind of thinking about this yesterday. I said, well, when Potter went to Chelsea and he was there for, you know, that short time and it went really bad and I was looking at it and Chelsea were absolutely diabolical. Every day I was just like, this guy's going to get sacked. I mean, he's you know, he's fucked. Like, he's going to get sacked. Like, it's absolute disaster. And I still think the same thing for Amorim. Whether they go, you know, they stay with him, I really do feel like at this current moment in time, I mean, we'll see as we go along, but I feel like as it stands, I feel like he's fucked. And that's one of my major concerns because I don't really want to keep sacking managers. I don't want to do it, but you can't help but sit and think. Again, we're sort of at almost a similar crossroad that we were at Ten Hag. Like there is an opportunity to sack the manager before the season starts, because if you start the season and this shit doesn't go well and it doesn't improve and it goes sideways after 10 to 15 matches, they're not going to have a choice but to sack him. And when they sack him, we will be back in the same position. So what they're doing, and I'm under no illusions, it is a huge gamble. What they're doing, it is a huge gamble. I mean, yesterday was a huge gamble in itself, and not just from like Amorim's standpoint, but like we gave up points and we gave up games for a long period of time in the Premier League and put our focus all on Europa League and winning that final and getting into the Champions League. It was the equivalent of we took all of our life savings and we put it all on red and we didn't hit fucking red and we've gone bust. So, and now essentially the equivalent of this is we're basically essentially taking a loan to get more money to go back and put it on red again, hoping that we make the money back and turn our fortunes around. And it's a massive gamble because if you hit bust again, you're double fucked. And when you're double fucked, I don't know what happens after that. That I can't even fathom what happens, the fallout, if it doesn't improve. And there's a strong possibility it doesn't. Now, on the players, I mean, I woke up, one of my, my sporting friend sent a message and he said, I'll read it to you, word for word, because they were chatting in the group chat and I didn't say anything, but they were talking amongst each other. And he said he watches United. He's sort of been, he's always sort of liked United as a second club, but obviously his team is Sporting, he's Portuguese. He said, Ruben's situation right now reminds me of his situation when he first started coaching Sporting. We had a shit team, and Sebastian Coates was the guy scoring our goals, which is the equivalent of Harry Maguire. We didn't play European footy in his first year either. And he said, I say patience. So, I mean, I don't know. But I do know that did go that way. And obviously, I know it's two different beasts, and maybe you can't replicate it because of the money that's in the Prem, and maybe it's impossible to do so. But they didn't have money either, so they did some transfers in, some transfers out. It wasn't major, it wasn't groundbreaking. It wasn't like they spent a ridiculous amount of money and started breaking all types of transfer fees. And I think that's the biggest discrepancy, because the Prem and all the teams, they have lots of money and they're going to go spend and get the best players. Whereas the Portuguese league, it's 3 top teams. There's 2 that kind of try to fight in there, and the rest of them are all kind of just basically nothing, right? So, but the point I'm trying to get to is there was players in that squad that he did have to use, and that he did have to improve, and that he did have to make better. And he obviously clearly got some of them to do that. So I still think he can do that part, but I don't know if he has the time anymore, really, because it hasn't really happened in the time that he's been here. And now, because of the things that has happened, he's gotten less time. And he needs, when we start next season, he's going to need to be hitting the ground running. And I don't know if that's going to happen, because it might take longer. It might take longer than that. So, X says, the more we speak against Amorim, the sooner he will be sacked. We will batter for allegations next season. I mean, that's just not true. He will go when Ineos decide to go. he will go when Ineos decide to go. So he never got another backup plan, plan B. He does. It's just not the backup plan and plan B that people, I guess, I don't know. How do I put this? It's not conventional. It's not conventional. Everybody's plan B is to change the formation and, play a different formation. His plan B, I don't know how to keep explaining this. It's not to change the formation, but it's to change the personnel. That's his plan B, because the players have different characteristics and they can play the positions in different ways. And it's slight minor adjustments. Maybe the 10, instead of being so central, goes wide, or instead of being so wide, it goes more central and pushing a couple players up. So he does have plan Bs and Cs, but it's not in the traditional sense where people say, oh, he only plays a 3-4-2-1 and he needs to have, a 4-3-3 as a backup or something. I mean, he does have plan Bs. It's just not in that sense. It's in a different way. So the chat is going crazy here. So I've lost my spot. Fans got excited when he came in and when he wore some expensive jacket and got all giddy about it. I mean, but fans always do that with everybody. I mean, they do that with everything. I mean, the club finishes 8th last season. We signed 2 players and everybody's like, we're going to win the league. It always happens. I was quite excited because I like his system and he did quite a good job. And I thought he was a young, exciting prospect. But I always said at the same time that we still had major problems at this football club. And it wasn't all Eric Ten Hag's fault. And Amorim is going to have some of these problems when he comes in, regardless. So, now is the time to change. We still have Garnacho and Bruno. But, I mean, yeah, but this is the point that we're going to get into. We're going to get into this. So, Ray says, hi, everyone. I think we're at a breaking point. Total clear out from top going down. I mean, no, we are. This club is at a breaking point. This club, that's why the title of this is Man United on life support. Because it's do or die. It's swim or drown. It's fight or flight time. Because if we fail going into next season and this transfer window is a disaster and we don't do the things that must be done because of the outcome of yesterday and the repercussions that are coming out of this, we're only going to keep going backwards. We're only going to keep going backwards. I mean, one of the scenarios, I mean, if Ruben stays and it doesn't go well and he gets sacked and we get somebody else in and we end up not getting, I mean, let's be real. The club now, they have no choice, but they have to try to get back into European football next season. Because if they're out of it again, we lose more money. All the rivals are getting more money, and they're getting stronger. So we're double losing, and we're getting pushed further and further back away. And it'll be harder to get better players. It'll be harder to keep up the competition. But this is also where recruitment comes in, because if you have a good recruitment team, and you can get good and smart deals, there is a path to sort of navigate this. That, okay, maybe you can't get Gyökeres, but maybe there's a striker out there that you can get that is willing to come, that actually works for the football club and for Manchester United, and it can actually help us on that journey. It's very, very difficult. It's not easy at all. And the probability of doing so is probably not that high. It's probably more likely to get shit wrong when you're being pinned into a corner. So I don't know what's going on. So I can't read everything in the chat. So please try and behave yourselves. I can't keep up with the entire chat. It's skipping around. Ray says, we are at the lowest point in the last 50 years, need open heart surgery. Well, I mean, I think this is the time. Fox says, Eric, will we get any takers for Onana, Biender, Malacia, Shaw, Maguire, Casemiro, Mount, Xerxes, Hoyland, Rashford, Sanchez, Anthem? I think there's always people that are there, at least one team. for all of those players, except for maybe barring Shaw, because his injury record is abysmal, and I don't think it's like impossible. And maybe Mount, because also his injury record is kind of been real iffy, and clubs, that's one of the things. It's one thing to be a bad performer and be poor. I think there's always a club out there that still might be willing to take the chance, but it's about how much money they're willing to pay. And that's something that United now have to also make decisions on, box. I mean, if you're going to do this clear out and you're going to do this reset, at some point, you have to make a cost evaluation and say, for example, I seen a story that they said that, Garnacho's out, but they want 60 million for Garnacho. Well, what are you going to do? I mean, if a club only offers you 50 million or 45 million, and that's the best offer you got, and it's one of the only offers you got, are you going to deny the 45 million and hold on to him and keep him here? Because I don't think that's even a good situation. And obviously we want to sell the players for the most money we can, but there is some sort of a calculation there that you have to make, where you have to determine it's not the money we want, but also at the same time, I mean, if this player is not happy, this player doesn't fit our system, and he doesn't fit our team, and he doesn't want to be here, then you gotta make some sort of a decision that's the best for the football club, and not worry so much about the money aspect, because you have to rebuild it. And this is what they got to do going forward. So, Lyle says, drop a like, subscribe, and get in Discord. Yeah, if you're not in the Discord, click that link, and you will join the Discord. I'm going to pin that message. So you click that link and you're good to go. I think Richard's left. I don't know what's happened. So, but again, I mean, came in calling people the C word and then says goodnight. I mean, I haven't seen that. So, I'm not saying you're lying, but I didn't see that. I mean, guys, chill. I'm trying to tell you guys, don't fight amongst each other. There's no point in it. It makes no sense. There's no point in it. There's no point in it. You share your opinions and differences, but there's no reason to be going at each other. There's no reason for it. You're letting the Glazers win. You're letting the Glazers win. This is what the Glazers do. They've divided us. They've conquered us. And instead of trying to fight them and everybody else, we fight amongst each other and we hate each other and nobody can get along. Just, I get it, but just just stop. Like, just try and relax, everybody. Everyone who has had a sense of reality has already understood that Amorim is incompetent as the head coach of our club. I mean, again, that's fine. I'm not going to argue on that point, Axe. But the reality that we're in is that, making that statement, okay, cool, that's fine. But that's not going to get him sacked. Like, it's not going to change the fact that they are deciding and choosing to go forward with this. So what I rather focus on is what is going to be happening and what's actually the direction that this club is choosing to head into. Yeah, bro, I'm all over the place. The chat is going crazy. Yeah, nobody tried to censor you, Axe. No, nobody tried to censor you. So don't say things like that. That's a lie. Nobody has ever censored you. Everybody, unless you're talking about YouTube, I have no control over that. That's your gripe with YouTube. But nobody here has tried to censor you in any sort of way. So, Axe says when they sack him, then hire a competent manager. Period. But that's just common sense. Like, sack him and hire a competent manager. Well, why would you hire an incompetent manager? But they hired him because they like him and they think he's a competent manager. So we don't know who would be the guy to come in. So, again, we're going to cry and say, sack them in the hopes that they do whatever your brain thinks is the best possible situation. But in reality, they have their own brains and they're thinking of something different, and you have no control over how that's going to go. They could get somebody that's just as bad. They could get somebody that's just as bad. And it could go just as wrong. Box, he called me in. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I apologize. I don't know. I don't know what transpired. I'll check back later when I reread it, but the chat, it just skips on me, and you guys are writing a lot, so I skimmed through a lot of stuff. So if Southgate was worse a Montclair jacket, would you all get giddy about him too? No, I mean, because but see, the thing is, Southgate, I mean, his football, there's a clear distinct difference though, because Southgate was manager England and his football was on clear display, and obviously went quite different to what Amorim was doing at Sporting. So nobody wants Gareth Southgate football because everybody knows it's shit. At Sporting, it was doing quite well, and it did well in Europe. So that's why everybody had a different feeling about it. It's not really the same. And now a lot of people are saying it's shit and it doesn't fit for the Prem, and that's because of the results and the performances. And I get that. But that's not, that's why it's two different things. So, don't tell me what to do about Sporting. I will. It's not a comparison about Sporting. I have never, not once, compared Manchester United and Sporting. Every time I've mentioned Sporting, I keep telling you, that there's obviously clear differences, but the manager there had his. There are some things that are similar. Like, it's just pure facts. And there's obviously things that are different. Obviously, the Prem is not the same as the Portuguese league. Obviously, Sporting is not the same as Manchester United. But they did not have money. And he did have to fucking rebuild that team. And that's where we are. I mean, we don't have money like we should. We're not in a position. And we need to rebuild the team. So, Fox says, I see no point selling Garnacho 50-60 million than buying Semenyo or Dibbling for 50-60 million. Garnacho has a bigger ceiling than both. Well, I mean, I don't know, but, we're going to get to Garnacho. I have updates that we got to get to. So, we're already an hour in. I've only been talking to the chat. I actually need to get to these updates. So, I'm just going to go. Well, the Discord, I can't. The Discord, I can't tell you. We have rules in the Discord. If you violate the rules, then it is what it is. YouTube is out of our hand, act. So, there's a clear guideline and rules in the Discord if you've read them. So if you violate them, they should be doing their job and timing people out for that or whatever it is. So, I if you have a complaint, you can message me about it. If anybody has a complaint or something they want to talk to, they can message me privately and we'll sort it out and work it out. But yeah, the Samoan 85 says, whoever wants Amorim out is deluded. He needs his players, and in January he was not backed and 2 players left. I mean, again, there's arguments for both sides, and this is the mess that we find ourselves in, because I think some of that stuff is actually, quite credible. It's a fair point to make. But there's other things that, go against him in that. But listen, let's switch gears. So, yeah, we were talking about this 100 million before we went into a whole thing about it. So, Axe says, I disagree on Sporting. Nothing of what we do as a club should be related to football teams from Portugal. We are completely on another level. Amorim was champion in Portugal. He is 17th in the EPL, 16th. Yes, but what I'm trying to say is, again, I already said it once. I'll say it again. Obviously, the Prem is not the Portuguese league, and Sporting is not Manchester United. And I said, obviously, the differences in leagues probably has a big different indication in the fact that the Portuguese league doesn't have the money that the Prem has. So when you finish outside of the top four and the strength of the teams and the money that they have, the gap is probably too big. But the fact is, Sporting didn't have money. Sporting had a shit team, and Sporting was a disaster when he walked into it. And he got a couple players in, and he was able to train some of the other players and use them and make them better. That was the point that I was getting across. So he might be able to get some of these players to do better at a certain point. I don't know if he will have the time now, because he hasn't necessarily been able to do it since he's came in here because of joining in the middle of the season. And obviously the whole thing about the preseason, and that's why people keep talking about the preseason, because that's what they're talking about, training the players and get them to play better. But if we also can't spend money, because in the Portuguese league, it's 3 top teams, so you don't really need to spend that much money to keep up with 2 other teams. In the Premier League is stacked, and people are getting much more money ahead of us. So if we're not spending, just training the players probably isn't good enough anyway, because we're still far away. So we're still very far away. It's just not gonna, it's not gonna happen. But the point that I was trying to make was, I think that he can improve some players because he did it at Sporting under similar circumstances, even though some of the other circumstances obviously are quite different, because it's the Portuguese league and not the EPL, and this is Manchester United and not Sporting. So like that's obvious that it's there. Portuguese tactics get you 16th. I mean, you're very disrespectful because to the Portuguese league, because Portuguese tactics, I mean, the amount of players that have come from the Portuguese league and succeeded in the Premier League, and the amount of managers that have come from the Portuguese league and started their career there and manage in the Premier League are actually quite high, and they actually do quite well. So it has nothing to do with Portuguese. It doesn't. But I'm going to the updates, because the updates are the biggest thing that we got to get to. So one of these things, the small things, was that Manchester United board remained behind Ruben Amorim in the wake of last night's Europa League final defeat. Summer rebuild expected to start with the arrival of Mateus Cunha. Obviously, he's still there on the books to get brought in. I mean, everybody was saying that they're expecting this to be announced now because it's going to be spin. But I'm going to be quite honest. I think the excitement that was coming out of this, the excitement from this deal is dead. I don't see how the club spins this. Like, everybody was expecting, and people were saying, I bet you we get a here we go today after the loss in the final to try and spin. I don't see how the football club can spin this anymore. The hype that was in this is gone and dead, because the ramifications and the fallout from yesterday are so immense that this almost doesn't even matter anymore, because you got to do this like 6 times over, and then also you have to go and remove a bunch of these players. So the job is now like 8 times bigger than it already was. So this sort of stuff, I don't see how they spin it. I mean, when they announce it, which it's going to come at some point, I mean, there's probably a couple people out there they're still going to get hyped. But for the majority, I think everybody's going to be like, okay, cool. We still have, 700 other problems that we need to fix, and we're still fucked. So, and you got a lot more work to do now. It's not going to hit the same. So I don't really see how they can even manage to spin it. And that's why I didn't even think, many people was thinking that we were going to get the here we go. I was like, we're not going to get the here we go, because it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's just not going to work. People were saying they're going to try and spin the negativity. You can't spin this negativity by this one signing. It's impossible. the only way they'll spin the negativity, it's going to take them all summer, and they're going to have to get the job 110% correct. Pretty much. And then we have to also start well and do our thing and get results and get performances for this to be completely turned around. That's the only way that's really going to happen. So I feel like this is pretty much, when they announce it, everybody's going to be like, cool. But no one's really going to be as hyped as before. I mean, everybody was kind of excited and getting hyped about Cunha, already the first signing, and we're gonna get some other players, and now they're just gonna be like Cunha, and everybody's gonna be like, yeah, whatever. We still have another 100 things we got to do, and we're still in a fucked situation. So, get on with it, pretty much. But on top of that, we got this update. Now, this is one of the things that big question marks over it. It goes back to what Lyle said in the beginning of, how is Ineos going to get shit done? Nobody actually really knows. And it's a lot of uncertainty. And this was, United Nad is somebody that works for United District, which is an aggregator news account. They're quite big. And to be fair to him, even he said that he doesn't believe this. And he thinks this is kind of BS. But they said United intends to go big this summer, with a proper clear out planned on top, with lots of players up for sale, and also wants to make multiple top signings. The loss yesterday has not hampered their intentions or plans. Now, I think maybe it hasn't hampered their intentions, but surely it has had to affect the plans, and it has had to affect making multiple top signings, because, I don't know what they want to describe as top signings, but for me, a top signing is Victor Gyökeres or Victor Osimhen. If you can't make a signing like that, and you sign somebody else, and you can't even get the lap, and you got to get somebody else, that clearly obviously wasn't on the radar between these three strikers, because these are the three main targets, well then we're not making a top signing, are we? So, I hope this part that says proper clear out planned on top, I hope that's true, and I hope they follow through with that, and they need to follow through with that. If they don't follow through with that, we're fucked, and it's done. And I'm sorry I'm super negative, but this is the reality that we sit in at the current moment. That needs to be done, and they need to get that shit right. If they don't, it's over. Lots of players up for sale. They have no other choice, the way I see it at this moment in time. If they're going to go down the path that they're going. If they're sticking with Ruben Amorim, they have no other choice but a massive clear out with lots of players up for sale and basically nobody safe. There is literally no other choice if they're sticking with Ruben Amorim. So it's got to be done. I mean, to a certain extent, many people argue, regardless of Ruben Amorim, it's got to be done. And, I do agree with that. But for sure, 110%, with Ruben Amorim, it has to be done. Because otherwise, it makes no sense in keeping him. It makes absolutely zero sense. If you can't provide this, and you can't do this, then there's no point in keeping him. So if you're going to decide to keep him, then you got to execute this. And it's got to be fucking flawless. So, I mean, they are in deep shit. Really. They are in deep shit. Now, Bruno Fernandez, I want to get through these updates and I'll get to the chat, I promise. But Bruno Fernandez obviously came out yesterday. He did some talking. There's been some talk about him potentially leaving now, even more so. There was obviously a little bit of talking before that. So we're going to kind of walk through this. Bruno made... Fabrizio came out saying that Amorim wants Bruno Fernandez to stay. He has a big offer from Saudi. Let's see what the club decides, after the quotes of him saying if the club opens the door for his exit, he will leave. And that transpired in this way because Bruno came out yesterday, obviously after the match, and he made these following statements. One was about Amorim, and he wasn't the only one. I think Luke Shaw and a couple other people, other players, came out and they backed Amorim, and they said that they do believe he is the right manager. And Bruno said, we just agreed that he's the right man. We know that the manager is looked at by results. Obviously, we see more than that as players. It's not my decision, but I do think the manager is the right one, and I don't think that there will be a better person to do the job. I know it's difficult to understand that. It's difficult to see that, but I still do think that he's the right man to lead the club. I do think that the club is in a situation where it's easier to get a different one in because the results haven't been there. But as my other teammates said, and I repeat myself, I do think he's the right man. Now, after that statement, and the other ones, players like Shaw and others have made similar statements as well, he also continued on to say, he was asked about his future, and he said, my future is not affected by the absence of Champions League. I have never been motivated by the financial aspect. If I want to make a financial choice, I will always have the possibility to do so, but that's not the case. I want to win trophies and play in the best competitions. And just on that point, I respect that, and I think that's true, because if he was 100% financially motivated, he would have just fucked off to Saudi Arabia by now. He clearly isn't 100%. Like, the vibe I get at the moment is he's not... I feel like he is disillusioned in a certain sense. I think he's at a low point. I don't think he's against leaving, but I don't think he wants to leave at the same time. He's not pushing for it. He's not like, you know, he hasn't made the determination in his head like, I'm done, this is done, I'm over this shit, I'm getting the fuck out of here. But what I would say to him, if I was having a conversation with him and he said this to me, I would just point out to him, I get that and I respect that comment and I respect that, you know, sort of opinion from you. But just to be fair, you know, you said you want to win trophies and you want to play in the best competitions. Well, but Manchester United are no longer there. The only competition that is the best competition is the Premier League, and that's what we're in. And we're nowhere near winning the fucking thing. So, if, for me, that statement reads a little bit iffy and a little bit washy, because if that's what you truly hold the most, then Manchester United is not the team to do that sort of stuff, because we're nowhere near it. And there's no guarantee by the time you get to 34 years old, Bruno, and potentially get close to retirement, that we're going to be anywhere near that again, because we don't know what's going to happen to this football club. You know, there's no guarantee we get back into top four in the next couple seasons. It could just be us finishing mid-table or lower, and just becoming that for the next few seasons and being that. There's no guarantee. You know, so, but he carried on and continued and said, if the club thinks it's time to part ways because they want to do something, cashing in or whatever, it's what it is. Football sometimes is like this. I've always said I will be here until the club says to me that it's time to go. I'm eager to do more, to be able to bring the club to the great days. The club, the day that the club thinks that I'm too much or it's time to part ways, football is like this. You never know. But I've always said it, and I keep my word in the same way. And I think, again, fair play to that. He has always said that. He's not, again, it's in the club's hand. And for me, personally, I will say this. Personally, I think at this current moment in time, with the fallout from yesterday and the result from yesterday, I think Manchester United should 110% sell Bruno Fernandez. I think it has to be done because we need the money and we need to rebuild this squad. And there isn't really a future in this with him at this current point in time. Where this club is, where this football club is, there isn't. And I keep looking at this situation as it's not the same in some certain aspects, because Liverpool were obviously, you know, were 16th and Liverpool were never 16th, and they were They weren't there, but they were kind of there, and they needed a bigger push. But this is a similar situation to Coutinho and Liverpool. They weren't the most elite team. They had Coutinho. They had some good players. They were doing decently good. They were sort of strong. But the sale of Coutinho allowed them to go up another 2 levels and really build out the rest of the squad and build a clear, strong squad using that money. And I think because of what happened yesterday, I don't think we can choose to eat our cake, have our cake and eat it too. I don't think we can. I think a repercussion and, something that came out of yesterday, and this is what I would tell to Ruben, because Ruben, you had an opportunity yesterday to secure, if you wanted Bruno Fernandez to stay, you had an opportunity yesterday. All you had to do was win 1 match, and you would have been able to have the money. We could have done the rebuild that we needed to do, and you could have kept Bruno Fernandez. But now, because we lost and we don't have that money, and you still need the rebuild, and the rebuild is more important than just 1 player, well, now we have to deal with the consequences. And the consequences of that, Ruben, is that we should be selling Bruno Fernandez. If Bruno Fernandez is bringing us 100 to 120 million, and we lost 100 million yesterday, we need that money. And that is the betterment for the club. It's sad to see him. It would be sad to see him go. He's one of my favorite players. But at the end of the day, I don't care about any player at this football club to that extent, because I care more about the football club in a whole. And it needs to be done. It needs to be done. It has to happen. So, and then the update that followed all of this came from Sky Sports saying Al Hilal are interested in signing Bruno Fernandez, but plans to sign him are not advanced at the present. So they are still there, and we'll see what happens in that aspect. I mean, you guys are chatting a lot, so I don't know where to jump in, but I'm gonna try and jump in somewhere. Lyle says, watch Garnacho light it up. Light it up away from United or elsewhere, and if elsewhere, then all those that wanted him out are going to compare the situation to Anthony. The man, damned if you do, damned if you don't. I mean, no, listen, I think it's a good, strong possibility that could happen. And it depends where he goes and stuff like that. And I'm not really, again, I don't buy into that shit. People, writing off players that are 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 years of age, and saying that they'll never be better than, fucking, I don't know, some shit player that they clearly don't like. Because at the end of the day, football, in 2 years' time, he could be double the player that he is, because he's still young and he has the potential to do it. But clearly him and Amorim, and we're going to get to Garnacho as well, but clearly him and Amorim, the relationship is fucked there. I think even with the club, I think he doesn't want to be here necessarily with the club. I think many players are feeling quite disillusioned with where the club is going. And I think they're contemplating. And I think Garnacho is now, I mean, the statement he made yesterday, when I read it, I was like, he's gone. I didn't need any of these other updates. The statement he made yesterday after the game, I was like, he doesn't even want to be here. Regardless of Ruben. I think at this point, he just feels like he needs to go to somewhere else and somewhere better and somewhere that's going to work for him better. And it's clearly not here anymore. I think he's pissed at the club. I think he's pissed at kind of the situation. I mean, listen, I don't blame him because for, kind of being pissed at the fact that, he wasn't picked. He played all these games and he did decently well. And then he got put on for 20 minutes. I disagree with his brother saying that he got thrown under the bus. I mean, for the last 20 minutes, I don't see how that is a thing. I mean, he got put on as a sub. Sometimes that's your fucking job. is that you're a sub. But obviously, I get the fact that he felt like he should have started. He didn't start, and the players that started, they played like shit, and then he didn't come on sooner. I get that aspect, and I hold nothing against him in that. So, um, the Samoan 85 says, guys, if we are pissed off the Glazers and Ineos, who never cared about our club or stadium and took debt since they came and Sir Alex left, we were doomed. And yeah, Rajat says he changed the game versus Man City, UCL semifinal game 2022. He won our last storm. It will probably get him eventually. He is on a thin line. That's what I feel. Rajat, that's what I feel. And I hope we're wrong. I hope it doesn't go that way. But I feel like I feel like Amorim is on a fucking small ass boat in the middle of the fucking waters with no land and no motor, and he's got a little sail, a little wind sail, and there's a fucking giant storm coming right up behind him, and he is trying to outrun this storm, and he's basically got almost no fucking chance of it happening, and that storm is gonna catch him, and he's gonna be fucked. Like, it's gonna go down. The ship's gonna go down. It's gonna break apart, and he's gonna drown. I just, that's just how I feel at this moment in time, because I think the things that is gonna have to happen from what happened yesterday, I think it's almost impossible. With what needed to happen already, with the way things have gone. So, Scott says if Bruno stays, it's because of Ruben, no one else. But here's the thing. Ruben doesn't have that power, Scott. He doesn't have that power. Here's how this is going to go. If Manchester United, if Omar, Vivell, Wilcox, and everybody else involved, if they all sit down in a meeting and they come to the conclusion that we do got to sell Bruno because we need the money and now we're in a fuck situation, and they're telling Amorim it's the only way to get you the rebuild that you clearly obviously need and you've been asking for, and you're saying that needs to happen because these players, this group of players is no good. Ruben can bitch, moan, cry, and complain all he wants. He can stand up on the table and throw a tantrum. But if they've made that decision, he can't block it. He can't stop it. The only thing he can do, really, is if it's really that much of a problem to him and he really disagrees with that, well, he could choose to walk away after that and say, they took a course of action I disagreed with and that I felt like I could no longer continue to work in this environment. So I'm leaving. That's the only thing he can do. That's the only thing he can do. As much as he wants him to stay, and he might beg and plead with them, if they decide as a majority over him that Bruno needs to be sold and we're going to sell him, he can't block it. He doesn't have that power. Now, he can try and convince them, maybe, and maybe he does so, and maybe they lean into him and listen to him about it, and maybe they go against it. But if they decide the opposite of what he wants, he doesn't have the power to stop it, which is why actually we do need this sort of thing at the football club, because obviously our previous manager had way too much power, and this is what happens when managers have too much power. Because I don't necessarily blame Amorim for wanting Bruno. He clearly rates him. He clearly values him as one of his most, if not in most important player, and I get that from his standpoint. But Ruben, that's what's best for Ruben and what he thinks will then ultimately be best for the club. But that's why the other people in charge have to take action and have to be in there so they can make the best possible decision for the football club itself. It's not necessarily about Ruben. It's about the football club. And if the football club needs a rebuild, and if the football club needs money, and if the football club has a shit squad, then you gotta sell him. You can't just keep him just because the manager. Because again, if this thing doesn't work out and they sack him, and we didn't sell Bruno, and we still have a shit squad, we're still gonna have a shit squad and a new manager. So, and I think after yesterday, you know, I think it's more in the direction of we probably should be leaning much more into looking to sell him, because we're in a situation that we need the money. We need the money. We need the money. The Samoan says, I'm sick and tired of this crybaby attitude of players. Get rid of Bruno, 120 mil, and Garnacho, 50 mil, and get Amorim his players that suit his style. And again, yeah, I get to that point, but listen, even to the point of things that we've done over the past 2 or 3 seasons that happened under Erik ten Hag. We had a team that was third, and we started chopping and changing, right? Like, we didn't really do much in the first transfer window under ten Hag. We did some, but really the major changes came more after that. In terms of getting rid of players. Like, somebody that I was talking about the other day was Scott McTominay. And it's not Scott McTominay himself. It's the point of how you fuck things up. Scott McTominay was a player that some people rated. Some people said it ain't good enough and we need better. But the point about Scott McTominay is he had a certain profile. He was big, tall, strong, physical. He can deal with that shit in the Premier League. We had some other players that also were like that had a certain profile, that had a certain dynamic that made us a little bit stronger in terms of physicality, because we really lack physicality. We got rid of him, and then we went and got Ugarte. Now, I don't have necessarily anything about Ugarte, but when you make all these changes that we made into the squad and you start changing characteristics and you're not getting certain profiles of players and you're getting different profile of players, this is where we went wrong. Because for me, Scott McTominay, we needed somebody like Scott McTominay that is strong and can play in the Prem, but better than Scott McTominay in ability wise, and that fits the squad a little bit more. But we didn't do that. We got a different profile of player. He's smaller, and it's not the same. And it's not just about Scott McTominay. We did that in numerous positions. And that has created an issue to where this squad isn't even good enough, regardless of the manager. It's not good enough to necessarily compete in the Premier League. It's not. You know, it's not strong enough. It's not fast enough. It's not athletic enough. It doesn't have a high IQ in it. It doesn't. It doesn't. It's not good enough. It really isn't good enough, regardless of the manager. And we've dismantled a good portion of the squad, and we bring in a good portion of the squad just under Erik ten Hag's reign. And that recruitment process was shit. And it was a failure, because all of the players basically that we brung in, none of them have worked out. None of them have worked out in any sort of way. Now, I think Ineos, in the last part, I think, you know, Maz, probably signing of the season, and it worked quite well. The Lit was all right, but there's problems because he has injuries, and maybe that wasn't such a good one to make. I think Yoro was good, and Yoro was probably one of only 2 players yesterday that actually had a decent game on the pitch, and was one of our better players. And I think that he was a good one. And Xerxes kind of came up a little bit, but I mean, he's not like the most elite, but he's gotten better over the course of time. And then there's Dorgu, and you know, and they got Ugarte. But Ineos were the ones that sold this shit. Fox says he wouldn't sell Bruno. You need to offload the surplus before I offload them all. Fox, offload them all. Offload the surplus, but also offload, because for me, what I'm trying to get the point across, Fox, is the surplus should already have been in the plan. Whether we whether we want it or not, the surplus had to be moved on. But now that we've lost 100 million, and the 100 million would have meant that the process for Ruben Amorim should have been stronger and better and easier, even though it was still difficult, should have been easier than what it is now. We have to seriously consider how you're going to make up this 100 million and where it's going to come from. Because people like Anthony, Rashford, Sancho, these guys were always going to be sold. This was already factored in. That doesn't make up the 100 million that we've lost yesterday. And, you know, we don't need as big of a squad now, obviously, as well, because we're not in Europe. So we're going to be playing less matches. So we need less players. But yeah. Box says there's 0 point selling Bruno and keeping the Deadwood. Build the squad, not replacing like for like. But that's not what I'm saying, Box. They all gotta go. But Bruno is a different thing in his own. The Deadwood obviously have to go. The Deadwood always had to go. The Deadwood must go regardless. And I'm not saying sell Bruno Fernandez and keep the Deadwood. I'm saying sell Bruno Fernandez and sell the Deadwood and sell all the underperforming players. Sell everybody you can. And it's almost basically to the point where it's impossible, but you got to try and do as much as possible at this point, because this is the circumstances the club finds itself in. This club is in a bad spot because of yesterday, because we put everything on red and we've gone bust. So now you must go to the extreme to fix this, because otherwise we're not going to get out of the hole. We got to get out of the hole, or we're going to keep digging down, and we're going to get further and further away until it gets to a point where it's literally 110% fucked. You know, I mean, people were saying that loss yesterday has set us back 5 years. It may have. It may have set us back 3 years. It may have set us back 4 years. I mean, we don't really know. But the point is, if it set us back 3 years, you must do everything you can in your power at this moment in time to try and cut into that. So if it set us back 3 years, you got to do everything you can to try and get it to set us back 2 years or 1 year instead of 3. If it set us 5, you got to cut it down. You have to do what you can. You have to do what you can. Axis, let's abduct the Glazers and take their money. I mean, we don't even need to take their money. Let's just have them sign the sale of the club. Such night settings, balconies and whatnot. If you know, you know. Box says I'd prioritize keeping Menu, Bruno, and Garnacho. I mean, fair play. And I think before this happened, I think you could. But I feel like we can't anymore. And there's a couple things. I mean, listen, they could keep... Listen, at this point, I think everything is up for grabs. And I think everything is up for in the air. And I think everything is open. I don't think anybody is actually necessarily safe. A couple days ago, they said that Bruno was untouchable. I don't think that can actually be the case. Whether you wanted to or not, or whether you agree with it or not, I think the situation that the club finds itself in, I don't think it's actually possible to say he's untouchable. And anybody, I think if we won, you could have made a big, huge argument to keep Bruno, to keep Meno, to keep Garnacho. But what this club needs in terms of rebuild and money and changes and players and the fact that we're losing money, and, we've lost money today. I mean, we've had to pay Adidas, 10 million. We're gonna keep losing money. If we don't build something to get us back into Europe by next season or the season after, we're gonna continue to lose more money. We're gonna continue to get further away. And for me, keeping Bruno Fernandez when we're gonna keep going down doesn't make sense, because at some point he won't be valued 100 and 120 million. His contract might run down. He might leave for free. We'll get nothing out of it, and we'll be fucked and stuck in the same place and not moving or going backwards. So, X says Amorim is destroying Garnacho's career. He is young, brilliant. He needs to save his career. Amorim's toxicity is too strong. Maybe. Maybe. No one's being Amorim apologetics. And again, it's beyond Amorim as well too. Like everything we're talking about here, it's not just about Ruben Amorim. It's not. He's obviously involved in it, but there's so many other problems now that are coming out of this that's gonna have to happen. That's a problem. So, Scott said, yeah, Ruben Hood. Should we skipped a lot here. And yeah, Anthony Rashford, Sancho, I got that. If Garnacho does well, then sell him. I'm going to be annoyed. Well, it could very well happen. It could very well happen. I mean, I don't listen. I'm telling you, and I've been saying this that I didn't want to sell him. I don't think it's a good thing to do. I don't feel like it's right, and I do feel like because he probably can go somewhere, and within a year or 2 or 3, he'll probably be way better player than he is currently at the moment. And everybody's going to be like, why did we get rid of him? Like they do with almost every other fucking player that we have. But that's not really the point. The point is, at some point, we have to fix the issues that are leading to this sort of problems here. And we got to get players that actually work for us. The Samoan 85 says, I'm a Man United supporter since 96, and when I saw Sir Alex Ferguson yesterday, it made me sad. What he has to see, what happened to our club. I mean, yeah. I mean, you know, he's probably... I mean, I don't know what he's really thinking, but I'm sure it hurts him, just like it hurts everybody else. You know, I'm sure, you know, I'm supported since around the same age as you. You know, I was born in 94. I was born into it pretty much. So, obviously I could only grasp things at a certain age. When I got older, you know, when I was like 1, you know, I didn't grasp the concept of football. I can't think of a memory when I was 1 years old of United, but, I was born into it. So, Rajat says it's up to Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos board of management as well. Of course. 100%. 100%. Samoan says just sell them all. Just sell them all or useless players. Get his players and restart. We need 5 to 7 new players. Ranick said that and everyone laughed at him, and look where we are now. But again, it's not about it's not even, to a certain point, it's not even about, like, I don't like the term his players in a certain extent, because if we're getting just specifically, I think it has to be, the idea behind what they're trying to do has to be just bigger than Ruben. And if Ruben fails and can't do it, they still need to get somebody that is similar, because whatever players they're getting, obviously the new guy that would follow Amorim has to use those players, because we can't afford, if you're doing a rebuild, you can't afford to do a rebuild again, because we're doing the same thing that United's been doing for every single fucking manager that's been here. So you can't, yes, technically his players, but also the players that fit what they're trying to build. Like players that can compete in the Prem, players that are physical, players that are not selfish, players that can play as a team. Like, you must build the squad regardless of Ruben Amorim. But obviously Ruben Amorim doesn't have the squad. The characteristics of the squad aren't good enough. So they need to, it's not so much about just Ruben's players, but it's about we need to build an actual core group of players. We need to have, we need to build an actual team. And then one that obviously Ruben can use as well. But also, at the same time, it's got to be one that if Ruben gets sacked, whoever you go get, or whoever's out there, or you go and find somebody out there that can continue and carry on and take over and continue with that, and you actually use those group of players, because you can't rebuild again after you've just rebuilt, like in the same season. Like if you rebuild this season and Ruben still fails and he gets sacked in December, you can't bring in a manager with a totally different idea and a totally different concept and a totally different philosophy that's going to tell you, I need another 8 new players. It's not going to work. It's going to fail, and it's impossible because we're already struggling for money. So, yeah, it's Ruben needs those players, but also it has the player behind it, whoever they decide to get, it has to have two facets. It's got to fit for Ruben, but also they got to be good enough that if Ruben goes, another manager that they decide to bring in has to be able to use them. And they have to be good enough. They have to be good enough for the Prem, regardless of who's in charge. They got to be able to have certain qualities, regardless of whoever is the manager. If you just go and get specific players, specifically for Ruben, and they don't necessarily are that great for the Prem, and you get another manager, it's not going to work. It's going to be the same thing we've done with every other manager, like we did for Ten Hag, and we were trying to get Ten Hag players, or Solskjaer and Mourinho and stuff like that. Like, they get sacked, and then we're just stuck with a bunch of players that the next manager doesn't want to use. And that's always going to kind of happen, but the majority of the squad, they got to be able to use them in some way. They got to be able to work. They got to be able to have something there to work with. And this is going forward with this sort of playing style and what they're trying to get out of the players. So, Andresito says, Amorim has little say. Look at Quenda going to Chelsea over Manchester United. Players have their own goals and aspirations. They own nothing to a club or coach. Look at Elise and Bellingham. As well. He could try and have pull, but, they have their own say as well. Fox says the only players worth getting from Sporting are Gyökeres and Inacio anyway, and Himland. I would say Himland. Himland, or whatever his name is. Himland. I think he's good as well. They also have Diamande. I think he's pretty good as well. They don't have bad players. And Portuguese players that come from the Portuguese league have been coming to the Premier League for time now, and they've been accomplishing great things, and they've had good success. So it's not like we're getting them from the fucking Belgium league or something. I mean, there's a track record with Portuguese players and players from the Portuguese league coming to the Premier League. They actually integrate quite well. They actually do quite well. So it's not that big of an issue. But just for an example, I think, like, to get Gyökeres is a player that obviously Ruben wants, Ruben can use. And if you get Gyökeres, just as an example, but this is the type of players that I was just talking about. If Ruben gets sacked, the next manager will probably still want Gyökeres because he's just that good. And nobody's really going to complain because he's going to be a guy that scores you goals. So it'll carry over. And, the manager's not going to come in. It's not going to be kind of like Rasmus, where they spent 72 million and it was for Ten Hag, and Ten Hag was here. And obviously it hasn't gone well. And then now, obviously, Ruben's like, I need a fucking striker because he obviously can't do it. And it's not good and it's not working. Like, that sort of thing we got to stop from happening. So, not much point backing man who will probably get fired eventually. I mean, but that is one of the things that you got to be real about. Whether you want him to stay or not, it is one of the concerns. And it's, maybe for some people it's easier, but I think it's actually quite difficult because it's like, that is a strong possibility that can happen. But what I'm saying is you can't keep him and not back him. It doesn't make sense. That aspect, if they do that, we might as well just fucking wave the white flag before the season starts. It just wouldn't work. It literally makes no sense. You can't keep him here and not back him. So if you choose to keep him here, you gotta back him and you gotta do the things to change the squad as much as possible and change the fortunes of the club as much as possible. Now, people will say we should just sack him because that's probably the biggest way. And that's fair play, but if you don't choose to sack him, then you got to back him. And if you can't back him, then you should sack him. So I don't, I'm not here trying to like convince anybody to be Ruben Amorim in or out, because at this point I'm looking at the football club itself, and I'm saying there's literally about two decisions we got. You either sack him now and don't repeat what just happened with his backing a manager and then sacking him in November because it's gone sideways, which is a real possibility and can happen. And it's a real threat of happening. And the implications and the fallout from that, we don't know. It could be an ultimate another disaster again. Or if you are keeping him here, then you have no choice but to back him. And you have to get the fucking job 100%. So Scott says if Ruben does walk away, I couldn't blame him, to be honest. But do you think others will follow suit? That's what's scary. I mean, they could. I think every manager is different, and I wouldn't blame Ruben if he walked away, because I think the situation is quite fucked. And again, he's responsible for things, and he's at fault for some things, for sure, because he's been here and he's had 7 months and he makes decisions and he's gotten things wrong. And I think there's other things there, that there's circumstances he walked into, the circumstances that were already here prior to him coming. There's things that were created that he had nothing to do with. And, it could be. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I keep saying this, until the club figures out how to provide a platform for a manager to actually succeed, none of these guys are going to be able to succeed. It's not going to work. It doesn't matter who you get. So, I'm not too worried about managers coming in constantly and getting and walking away. If Ruben walks away, I don't think that's like something that's going to be like a continuing trend, because I think every manager is different and they all have different mindsets and beliefs and stuff like that, and I don't think he'll necessarily walk in terms of this point. The only way he would walk is if it's a huge falling out and disagreement over the course of what the club is going to do. Potentially, it could be one about the sale of Bruno Fernandez. Maybe he'll walk after that. But he's made it very clear in terms of the results. He still believes that he can do this job. He still believes he can turn the fortunes around and he can get the job done. He's made that very clear. He's made it very clear that he's not going to walk away, but he understands that if the club, i.e. the fans and the board, if they don't believe that he's the right guy to be here anymore, then he does accept that obviously, he will go, which is pretty much the board will come and say, listen, it's not working out. And he'll just be like, I understand. And he'll go. You know what I mean? And, he said without compensation, and I do believe him. I feel like if that ever does happen, I think he'll deny the compensation. I think he will. He's a man of honesty. So, Scott says I tell Bruno, but not because United need the cash, but for Bruno himself, he does deserve better than this. See, but that's the thing. Like, I don't, nothing against you, Scott, and I'm not attacking you or anything. I'm just saying, from my point of view, I don't give a shit, what Bruno deserves. I don't care. I'm focused 100%, 110% about this football club. Again, people yesterday were saying we got to go do and win this final because Bruno Fernandez does it. No, I don't give a shit about that. Bruno had one of the worst games yesterday. So he deserved what he got, which is we lost, because him and his teammates shit the bed, and the manager and his manager. He only deserved it if he put in a fucking 8 out of 10 and he did his job on the pitch, but he didn't. He failed utterly, and so did everybody else around him, and the manager included. So they got what they deserved. But our football club I'm not concerned about what Fernandez or any other player. It's not just him. I don't care about any other player, what they deserve. It's about what my football club needs to do to get back into a better position and not be an absolute circus clown show and a shithole. Because that's what we are. I mean, we are at the bottom of the pit of hell. Pun intended, because we're the Red Devils. But we are. We really are. I mean, we just had a season where we finished 16th. We have no trophies, and we have no European football in any way. And the prospects of us looking at it for next season looks quite grim and looks quite dull. So, Box says McTominay would have been a better center forward than Højlund and Xerxes 100%. I mean, probably at this point, I think you can. I think Box. I think at this point you could fucking say anything really, and it probably seems that way. So, but the more point on that was it wasn't really about the sale of McTominay itself. It was just about the fact that we got rid of players and we bring in certain players with different sorts of characteristics, and I feel like that team that Ten Hag had that finished third, after we started dismantling it and changing it and bringing on all these other players, that's where, to me, that it started really getting worse. And we fucked up royally because I just feel like we have created a team, regardless of the manager, the team itself, the squad itself, we have created a team that doesn't actually fit the Premier League properly. It cannot compete against other teams. Look at Tottenham's midfield yesterday. Basuma and all these guys. Like, those are strong, quick, physical guys. They're athletic. They can defend. We don't have that. We don't have that. Like, as much as Uncle Cass has been good in the Europa, man's got no legs. He's old. Ugarte, while he's supposed to be a little pit bull and good at tackling, he's still small and he ain't that strong. And he loses the ball. Mainu, I don't know where Mainu fucking fits. And he's, he is still kind of, he can be strong at times, but he's still kind of weak at other aspects. There's Collier, but he wasn't involved. And maybe he could be one because he's sort of tall. But maybe he needs to bulk up and stuff like that. There's a lot of aspects in the squad that we're missing. I look at the team that we have, and I'm just like, that team is not a team that has the characteristics to go compete week in and week out against a Premier League team. It doesn't matter if you play a 4-2-3-1, a 3-4-2-1, a 5-2-2-1, a 4-3-3. It doesn't matter because that group of players with the characteristics that they have can only get so high. They cannot go higher than a certain point. They can't go into fourth or third or second. They can't. They're not good enough and they don't fit well enough. So we have a squad that, regardless of Ruben, it doesn't work in the Prem, regardless. Even if you got in a manager that specialized at 4-2-3-1, I'll admit, sure. I mean, I don't think we would finish 16th. But I don't think we would finish in fourth or third with this group of players playing a 4-2-3-1 because we haven't done so. We did it one season, 3 seasons ago. We finished third. Then we finished 8th. Now we finished 16th. And there's no way you go from 16th to third with this group of players. Switching the formation or doing whatever. You obviously clearly have to change the team. So, Bale was sold and Spurs bought 7 players equals most were flops. Yeah, but that's the point, Box. You got to get the recruitment right. So, but that's their job. Their job is to do what is proper for the football club and get in the players. So if we need 7 players and now we can only afford 3 or 4, or you're telling us we could get 5, but they're going to be lower quality, so it's not going to be much help because now Tottenham are in Champions League. Liverpool have lots of money and they won the league and they're currently the strongest team. They have money. They've already got Frimpong and they're getting Kirkaz. And they're going to get more because they didn't spend last season. Arsenal are going to spend big. Spurs are going to spend money now for sure because they're in the Champions League. Villa's there and they're going to spend a lot more money. You know, all these teams are going to spend money. So if we can't spend and we keep Bruno and we only get a little bit, we're not going to go nowhere. And if we finish very far away again, well, the other teams are only going to get more money and we're only going to get less money and we're only going to keep falling further away. So we are bleeding everywhere. We are bleeding cash and money like crazy, and power and respect. We're bleeding all over the place. And we must do the most extreme things. You know, this is emergency surgery. This is like life or death. And I'm not, you know, exaggerating to be hyperbolic or anything. I really do feel like that at this current moment in time, based off of what has happened. Box says I'd prefer higher IQ players than necessarily physical ones. People with news up front who can finish, when to assist, what position to be, defense, who snuff out attacks and don't have lapses and errors. I think we need. It's not that I'm saying I prefer either one. It's a mix. You need both. You need them all around. You need some players in some positions with better IQ. You need some players in some positions that are more physical, more athletic, you know, in different positions around the team to just strengthen the team as a whole. Andresito says, just subbed. Great stream. Love from New York City. Well, that's awesome, Andresito. Little secret to you. I also live in New York. But I don't live in the city. But shout out and thank you. I appreciate that for the sub and good to have you here. And we are on our way. As you see, the count has gone up 2,970 and we're trying to get to 3,000. We're on our way there. We're going to get there. I know it for a fact, but, I'm actually glad that, you know, there's an American in here, and somebody that's from New York as well. We're on the same time and everything. So, yeah, that's I was wondering, I'm like, I know there's some of them out there. I was like, why haven't they found the channel yet? We got one. Rajat says, don't want to watch Man U again. Well, listen, I mean, I'm gonna watch the Villa game. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'll watch the Villa game. I don't know why, but I'll watch it. Even though I kind of don't really want to, but I'll watch it. I think the Villa game might be quite interesting because I kind of want to see what players he's going to field. I think it might be an indication. You know, it might be an indication. It might be quite telling. So I'm actually quite interested to see the team he picks for Villa because it's the last game of the season for, you know, actual competitions. And then we're going to fly to Asia. And I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I could give two shits about the Asian tour thing. I mean, I'm not going to watch those games. I'm not. I don't give a shit. We're going there for money to get paid $8 million. I mean, we're like cheap hookers at this point. You know, we're going right after we've had the worst season. We're flying out to Asia to play two games so that we could get paid $8 million. We're literally like we're pimping out ourselves. We're like cheap hookers. You know, we're a disgrace. You know, we're not even like good looking hookers. You know, like the high end ones, like the girl that Jude is dating. You know, she's a high end one. You know, but no, we're like old. We're like washed hookers. You know, and yeah, it's just I could care fucking less about those games. So I'm not gonna watch them. You know, I'll be quite honest. I'm not gonna watch them. We're not gonna do a Red Devil recap about it. We're not. You know, we're gonna focus on other things. They could go do that. You know, if you guys want to, I mean, that's on you guys. But I'm just letting you know, for me and the channel, I'm not interested in any sort of way. After the season that we've just had, I want the season. I want the Villa game to be the Villa game and the season to end, and I don't want to see Manchester United playing another game until we've done transfers and we get to the preseason. Pretty much, that's what I want. That's what I want. Boxes 100% are characteristics, basics, applications, mentality, all key, and we're lacking in many departments. We are, and that's why, you know, Lion says, have we now reached open heart surgery? I hope so, Lions. I think this is the moment. I think this is the moment, whether the club want to or not. I think this is the moment that they actually really have to do it. But the problem is Lions. The problem is, you have to go and actually do it. You have to be willing to do it and take the action to go do it. But at the same time, Lions, they can't afford to fuck it up. You know, and this is what I'm saying. You know, Ranick, he said it a little bit more lightly because he said we need open heart surgery. And, you know, it sounds in a certain way, but what he was saying is we just need to make a bunch of changes. There are quite a lot of changes. But we can do it, you know? But for me, the meaning of open heart surgery at this moment in time, from that point in time to now, is different. Because when you do it, and when we're at the state that we're at, and in the current position that we're in, it really is like real life open heart surgery. If you fuck that surgery up, the patient will die. We are not in a position that United can fuck things up so bad like they have done in the past. We cannot afford to botch the surgery. So if you do the surgery, it's one step to do the surgery. It's the other step that you better make sure that you are on point when you're doing the surgery. Because if you fuck up, the patient will die. And that's where we are. That's how I see this club at the moment in time. Now, things can change because it's very early and we don't know necessarily what exactly is going to transpire. And obviously, with context, everything is different. You know, when things happen, feelings and thoughts and ideas and stuff like that change. So it change and circumstances change. So things can change. But at this current moment in time, with the stuff that we know and the stuff that we knew before, and the feeling that's coming out of this is where this club is at. We are in a place that we can't afford mistakes anymore. We can't afford mistakes, and we need to get everything right. You know, Lucky Singh says I am with manager support. Fair play to you. We need to mix for sure, says Box. Lucky says Way fans treating him disgusting. Well, listen, people are upset. They're angry. You know, I can't blame them for the anger. I can't blame them for being upset. I can't blame them for being, you know, sad or pissed off at Ruben. I mean, listen, he did fuck up yesterday. And you know, he can't be shielded from criticism. But at the end of the day, it's up to people. If they want to be Ruben out, then they can be Ruben out all they want. You know, Lucky Singh says he got my support, manager, regardless what fans think of him. Well, that's what I'm saying. So, you know, that's all it is. Box says the Villa game might get toxic if we go few goals down. At least Rashford can't play. Well, yeah, he couldn't play either way. So, you know, I don't know. It depends. I guess we'll see. But Lucky says Garnacho, Rasmus Højlund, Anthony Santos, Rashford, Tyrell will selling straight away. Transfer window open. Well, I mean, it's that the thing is about that though is it does take a lot of time. You know, it does take a lot of time to do those deals at that amount of players. So that's the biggest issue. That's one of the biggest issues as well. You know, it's easy for us to sit here and say, you know, sell 12 players, but to sell 12 players takes you quite a while. So they have their work cut out for them, and they are up against a massive challenge and a massive hill. And I don't know how they're going to really succeed from this point. I think we're going to be in a... I think things are looking quite grim and quite bleak. I don't see how... You know, I feel like that scene from Batman, you know, where he's thrown into the pit and nobody climbs out of that shit. I feel like that's where we are. I mean, of course he doesn't, but, you know, it still took him forever to do it. But I just feel like we're in that pit, and it's like, how do you get out of this? You know, how do you get out of this? I am backing manager because he needs next season get judgment of the future. Well, I mean, yeah. Angel Gomez, Yusafa, Wisa, Cunha, we giving fresh project start again. Well, if they could get these players, but we got to see how it goes. Chris Wheeler reporting a split amongst the squad regarding Amorim, and so it begins. Well, yeah, I mean, that's probably to be expected. I'm going to get to that as well. So, I mean, but there is, listen, I don't even need to read that update. There is a split amongst the squad. There's clearly players like Bruno and Luke Shaw and others that came out yesterday that said that they believe that Ruben is the right man. They back Ruben and they want Ruben to stay here. And they believe in Ruben. There's obviously players, obviously like Garnacho, probably doesn't like Ruben. They have issues, clearly. They've had issues since he dropped him that first time. I think they tried to be professional about it, but I think Garnacho, him being young and sort of being this, he is sort of emotional, quite emotional, maybe more than some other people. I think he kind of still has a problem with it inside. I think it still bothers him. I think he doesn't necessarily like Ruben, and I think yesterday exacerbated it even more because he felt robbed or aggrieved by what the decision was to not start him, and he felt maybe betrayed by Ruben because he was like, listen, I was here, I was for you, I was trying my best and giving you as much, and the second you got the opportunity, you just fucking threw me to the side, and meanwhile I played a big part as to why you're here. Ruben also made a comment about him missing a big chance in the semifinals, so maybe he didn't like that either. Lion says, I totally agree, Eric. The window is probably the most important since Fergie left. It might be. Listen, I don't know because obviously I wasn't alive for all of Manchester United's history, so I couldn't be there in certain circumstances. But for me, this is probably our most important, I would say, in the history of the club, for as far as I know. For as far as I know, where we're at, the situation we find ourselves in, this point is pivotal. We are absolutely 110% on the edge. Some people yesterday, after the match was over, they felt like the club is dead. People saying that the club died years ago. People waking up today feeling like the club is dead. And maybe they're right. Maybe they are right. Maybe the club is dead. Maybe the club has been dead. Maybe we're just, carrying on with sort of a ghost and a shell. I don't think it's not a nice thing to say, and it's not something, positive to kind of believe in, and I get that. But at the same time, we're a shell of whatever we used to be, and it's been 12 years. Maybe it did die at some point, and we've just been, moving along. And if that's not the case, then I would argue we are at a point where if it's not dead, we're at a point where it will die. It will die. I know we have the saying, we'll never die, but I think if you fuck things up too much, too long, and too far, and you do some irreversible, catastrophic damage, at some point you will. I mean, will the club cease to exist? Probably not in that sense. But I mean, I know it's not the same, but look at Blackburn Rovers. Like, they won the league and they were there and they spent all this money, and what the fuck, what's happened to them? I mean, they never came back from it. And there's multiple examples of that clubs used to be on top of the world. And they never came back from it. And I think we're going deeper and deeper into the place where it is harder and harder for us to get out, and we can't continue. We are at a breaking point. Lucky Singh says Ineos now more focused, starting clear out 2 by 2. Well, I mean, that's the only job they got, Lucky. That's the only job they got. They have literally no other choice. So they got to do it. Whether they want to do it or not, they got to do it. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Lion says my friend Chris Wheeler, dealer, never misses an opportunity. Lucky says we have to start again, refresh brand next. No, we do. But it's still a monumental task, Lucky, and there's still no guarantee that they get it right, and there's still no guarantee that it works well. just because we go and do it. And this is the implications at the club. There are things we got to do, but that doesn't mean even if we do a clear out, even if we do a fresh rebrand next season and you do a rebuild, doesn't mean that it's going to work. And that's why we're in a dire situation. Does Rashford have issues with Amorim, you think? Well, that's what I was going to say. You know, somebody like Rashford, there's obviously players there that they clearly obviously have a problem. You know, all players with all managers, not every player in the squad, they don't like, not every player at the club with the manager there, they don't all like each other. I mean, that's part of the thing. So, I mean, there's obviously clearly some players there that they don't. I think there's lots of players that still back on Amorim and they're in his corner. So, Fox says, imagine we are in a relegation battle with Leeds next year and they send us down. Well, I mean, I think I don't even want to say it because I don't want to, but I think that would be catastrophic for individuals. On a personal level, I think there's too many people out there that I don't think they would be able to handle the box. Let's just put it that way. I don't think they would be able to handle that. Line says we're rock bottom now. This is what happened to Leeds, but still have an opportunity to turn it around. They just need to be smart about it. They do. They do. But listen, we still have some more updates, to be quite honest. So let's get into them. And then we can finish up the show. So obviously there was this whole Bruno thing we were talking about. And Al Halal. But we got this little update from Alex Crook saying that Bruno Fernandez and Harry Maguire might have become disillusioned with the United top brass. And I think that's fair play because they've made certain decisions and we've ended up having the worst season ever. So I don't even think it's just them. I don't think it's just Bruno or Harry Maguire. I think it's probably, I think it's the entire club. I think it's Amorim, the players, backroom staff, coaching staff, other type of staff, everybody. I think the whole club is disillusioned with the decisions that have been made and where this club is going. I think everybody feels disillusioned. I think Garnacho is definitely one of them. I think even Manu is one of them. I think there's tons of players in there that are disillusioned. So yeah, I think it's a big issue. But this was one of the biggest things that came out that, Manchester United will listen to offers for every player in the wake of their disastrous Europa League final defeat. No player will be immune from being sold, including captain Bruno Fernandez. And this is from the Disco Mirror. And I know it's the Disco Mirror, so it's not like Fabrizio or something. But I think whether this is true or not, I think that it has to be to a certain extent. I've been saying this whole show. It has to be a certain reality. It has to be. It has to be because of what has happened. It has to be. Again, we have put everything. We put everything all on red. Everything that they had planned, all the positivity and all the better situation that we could have had this club be put in was all for yesterday. And we walked away with nothing. Actually, we walked away in the negative because we lost a shit ton of money and we lost prospects from not being in there. And we already needed major changes before that. And I think, unfortunately, this isn't what I'm saying. This isn't what I originally wanted to happen. This isn't what I originally wanted to go down. I don't want to see the likes of players like Garnacho or Manu being sold. But I think at this current moment in time, I think that there is, considering the magnitude of what happened and the circumstances, I think that there is basically almost nobody safe at this football club. And I don't think there can be because of where we are at. I just don't think. I just don't think. Disco Mirror. It's the mirror. It's just the handle is called Disco Mirror. I don't know why. This Discovery Mirror or something like that. I don't know. It's the Twitter handle, but it's the mirror. It's the mirror, the sports mirror. Might be a nightclub. Yeah, I always like when I first got into this and they'd be like Disco Mirror. I was like, the fuck is Disco Mirror? Because disco, you know? So I'm thinking like, but it's just the outlet, the mirror. But I don't know why their handle is Disco Mirror. I don't know if it's Discovery Mirror or something like that. I don't know. Um, but yeah, not that I ever do. Yeah, yeah. So but about Alejandro Garnacho, let's get to the Garnacho thing now. So this is what happened with Garnacho. Garnacho came out yesterday after the match, and Garnacho made these quotes and said, "Until the final, I played every round helping the team. Then the final arrives and I play 20 minutes. I don't know. The final, the season, the whole situation of the club, I will try to enjoy the summer and then we will see what happens." He then also followed that up by saying, "It's difficult for all of us. This season has been shit." And he actually said this: "We lost the final. We didn't beat anyone in the Premier League. It's very difficult." And to me, it wasn't this statement, but it was this bottom statement here, where he said, "I will try to enjoy the summer, and then we will see what happens." I mean, that to me just indicates, and it just makes me feel like he doesn't want to stay here, and that he wants to go. I just feel like that and in that moment, maybe he was exceptionally emotional again, because we know that he is a little bit more emotional than some other players. Maybe he just really felt like that at that time. Maybe he'll reconsider. Um, but when I read that, the only thing that came to my mind immediately was he doesn't want to stay here anymore. He's gone. He's gone. He's gone. He doesn't want to be here. And he's probably gonna ask to leave. So, um, you know, and again, I don't even blame him for the comments. I mean, I don't blame him for the comments. I'm not mad at him for the comments. I just understand the situation of it. And you know what? At the same time, I mean, he's right though. To a certain extent. I mean, it's difficult for everybody. The season has absolutely been shit, and we lost the final, and we beat nobody in the Premier League. I mean, he's not lying. So I don't blame him for any of the comments. Loads of people had problems with it. I don't. Um, I don't. I get it, but I just think that just means that I don't think he wants to continue on here anymore. I think he's one of those players. Like I said, I think there's lots of players, but I think he feels very disillusioned. I don't think he's happy with the direction of the club. I don't think he's necessarily happy with how his um his career is going and how things are going. But why does he need to make it about him in the end? I mean, he didn't necessarily. He was asked a question, so he was asked a question. And again, I mean, I guess he kind of did. I can't tell you the question he was asked because this was done in Spanish, so it was translated. So I can't ask you. I can't tell you. But again, he's an emotional guy. We've seen it before. Remember when he got called out by one of the United fans and he didn't celebrate in the game? He's a young guy and he's quite emotional. And I guess in the moment, being a young guy and being that emotional, he didn't handle the situation very well. I'm sure Bruno was absolutely gutted, and even Bruno said some things about his future, and stuff like that. So listen, it is what it is. It happened, and he gave the answer he gave. So, um, yeah, I get that, Lions. I mean, I get that, but I could also see how he didn't keep it in house. You know what I mean? I would prefer them if they keep it in house. I do, but I can read him and I understand him and I can see how he said this. Like it just makes sense because he's one of those guys that he probably felt like, one. Actually, let's be fair. for me, as a football club, I think somebody like Alejandro Garnacho, after yesterday, I'll protect him a little bit. Because for me, like Lion says, that keep the shit in house. Well, but for me, the way I look at it is, well, as a football club, and Manchester United has a responsibility to these younger players that we don't do such a good job of looking after anymore. And if I work on a daily, like, I don't know Garnacho, but I could tell you, and other people will tell you. I mean, Bach says that, Bach said that, Bach said that he's a big baby. I mean, like, so if we can tell that from outside, then obviously they should know that he's this kind of person. He's quite emotional, and he's a young guy. Why was he allowed, or why was he allowed to be anywhere near cameras or reporters? He should be fucking nowhere near that after what transpired. They should never be allowed, and it would have never happened under Ferguson, because he would have never allowed it. He would have never allowed them to be anywhere near it. He would have never allowed them to ask any questions. So, yeah, he shouldn't maybe have kept it in-house and fair play, but also, where's the fucking club in this? You know, why is he going out there? He is a senior player, but he ain't Shaw. He ain't Bruno Fernandez. He ain't Harry Maguire. And you know his attitude, you know the way he is, you know he's quite more emotional than some of these other players. Why is he allowed to be anywhere near a microphone or a reporter or a journalist? Why? You know? So I mean, that's just another point, but Box says MUFC, the owners, the board, the managers, the players, everyone loving airing their dirty laundry and it has to fucking stop. It does. I mean, it does. It does, though. Lyle says CR7 attitude, but without the CR7 accolades. I mean, yeah, to a certain extent, yes. Yes, but maybe that's something he's mad about, because maybe he feels like his progression has been hampered at the club, and maybe he feels like part of the reason why he's not as good as maybe he could be is because the club is not heading in a good direction. I don't know. You know, I'm just playing kind of devil advocate, I guess. I mean, I don't know what he thinks and what really goes through his head, but Andresito says, I prefer what he said over that bullshit that Shaw said. Well, listen, actually, I think, you know, I think actually Shaw was telling the truth, though. And I you know, I'll be quite honest. I didn't want to hear the players. I don't really care what they had to really say too much. But I did read basically everything. I ended up reading it because I couldn't sleep and I just kept searching for everything to try and think of as many things as possible to try and get the best possible picture. And I saw what Shaw said, and I have nothing against what Shaw said either. I think Shaw actually spoke the truth. Now people can, you know, they hate Shaw or they judge Shaw, whatever, because of what they think of him as a player. But that's not the point. I think what he said, I think he was actually saying real shit. I mean, they do have to, you know, you could throw back in his face and say, you know, speak for yourself or speak about yourself. Like, but that's not the point. The point is the things that he did say were accurate. I mean, they do have to look at themselves and ask the question, are they good enough to be here? And I think many people will say, no, you're not. And you should wake up and realize that, you know? And all types of stuff like that. So, Lucky Singh says Garnacho, Rasmus Højlund, Rashford, Sancho, Lindelof. We're looking to get. Says we're looking for more than that now. We're looking for more than that now. Lion says, but if Rashi came out and said this, we would all be in an uproar. Well, maybe. I mean, again, but it's also. Actually, I don't disagree, Lions, but at the same time, I will say all at the same time that it's different. Whether it's fair or not, it's part of life, but it's different for individuals. It's different for each individual. And there's different circumstances around it. I mean, Rashford has the things Rashford has done, the things Rashford have said, the amount of time Rashford has been here and stuff like that. And obviously, Rashford has a different scrutiny, and there's a different bias. And there's a different agenda around him in general from other people anyway. So, yeah, it comes across differently across every player for sure, 100%. Is that fair? Not really, but life is like that, unfortunately, and it happens all the time. And it's kind of, I mean, I just kind of view it as a part of life. I mean, there's lots of things that, one person can do and somebody else can't. Like somebody, there's people out there that can say and do things and they'll get away with it, and somebody else can't say and do things and get away with it. Is it fair? No, it's not. But life isn't fair. It's not fair. So, um, Ratcliffe was taking the barbecue back at the shop to get his refund. No, they still had the party box. They had the party. The party was today. Barbecue was on. And why'd I just add, like, I mean, I don't really give a shit enough to say if they should have the party or not, but, when I read that, I was just like, that must be probably the shittiest party ever. I mean, the vibe there must be fucking absolutely dead. Absolutely dead. That party, it'd probably be more lively at a funeral, at a wake. Um, I've been to a couple, and obviously it's sad, and people are emotional, and people cry and stuff like that. But there is always this moment and period at those things where, people are reminiscing about the person that has passed, and they get together with family members or friends, and they start reminiscing about the person, and a laugh or two does come out, and a joke or two does come out. I think a funeral would, or a wake would be more lively than this fucking party that they had today. Imagine the vibes. Yeah, no, I'm not joking. It was reported that they still had the party. It was today. It was today. They still had the party. It was closed indoor. It was indoor. So it's closed off and behind the scenes and shit. And apparently, I think just the players were involved. I think I read something that the staff were pissed because not even the staff. And I don't think it means like playing staff. I think it means further extent of staff. I think it said the staff were pissed because the staff weren't even being included, and it was just the players. So, no, I mean, like, dude, like, um, I don't hate Shaw. I don't hate Shaw. The amount of time Shaw has done the same type of interview, lol, he did it after both England and Euro finals too. Well, that I understand. I get that, and I get why people go at him, but it's just, um, I still don't think he necessarily said anything that was false, though. I think he probably said what he knew, what everybody wanted to hear, but it doesn't make it false, what he said. So, you get that trending if you know how to work the interweb. Yeah, maybe. I hope they all had plates and plates of humble pie. Well, at the current moment, there's probably no plates, no napkins. And they're eating the food with their hands. With the way things are going. So, might have turned into the send-off party for the leavers, maybe. But I mean I read that and I was like, literally the first thought that went through my mind was like that probably has to be the most shittest party ever in the history of parties ever thrown. I said that party must be so shit and so dead. Because for me and the way I feel about what happened yesterday, and then I just think, like, imagine I was one of the players, and I still feel the same way I do as a fan. And I was like, imagine I was one of the players, and today they're gonna tell me, yeah, we gotta go meet for the fucking barbecue for the party for the end of the season. I'd have like half my mind to tell them I'm not fucking going. And, if they tell me it's mandatory, I'd have another half of my mind to tell me, fucking find me or whatever, do whatever. I'd be like, listen, I'm sorry, but I can't go to this. How the fuck are we having a party after what just happened? I don't want to be there. I want to be, in my house, staring at myself in the mirror, questioning my entire existence because I don't know what the fuck we just did. as a football club and as a football player. And I need to contemplate my life. Now I'm sure they probably don't go that far because they don't care as much as us. But Box says, I wonder if Jadon Sancho turned up for some grub. Well, you know Shaw definitely did. You know Shaw's not missing out on free food. Shaw was there 100%. Shaw's there taking hot dogs or whatever they got, hamburgers. He's stuffing extras into his pocket for later. He's taking as much as he fucking can home. You know, he's putting some under his shirt. He's going in, Shaw. He's like, dude, I got shit to last me weeks. Lions is mad. Come on, I needed to say something. I had to make myself laugh. It's too serious of a show. It's too serious of a show. And we don't have anything to laugh at, so but yeah, I didn't even finish Garnacho, so let me finish Garnacho, please. We did that part. So Garnacho, Fabrizio. So Fabrizio said the relationship between Garnacho and the club has not been the same since January. The feeling is that if the club receives a good offer, he will leave. And I think that's quite clear. That's happened. You know, he got dropped from the squad right around January. It was before January, but right around there. And then there was all this talk about Garnacho being sold in January, and that they were open to selling him. I think he was made aware of that. I think maybe it almost happened to a certain degree, but we couldn't agree on the deal. And I think that's probably not made things. I think that's made him also feel the way he feels. So, you know, I don't think it's a problem. I don't, not that I don't think it's a problem. I think that's what has led, or has played a part. You know, even to him making that sort of statement. I think he's kind of been holding these feelings in for quite some time. That's what I'm saying. And I think yesterday, just the emotion of it sinking in for a guy like that, you know, say whatever you want about him. He has CR7 mentality, whatever, without the skill and all that shit. He still clearly took it very hard. You know, and that's why it boiled over, because it sunk in that, like, we lost the final, we accomplished nothing, we had a shit season, and, you know, it just hasn't been a good time. And the club don't even necessarily want me here anymore. And it's like, well, what the fuck am I doing? You know, what's going on? But Fabrizio gave us another update saying a good proposal for all parties can see Alejandro Garnacho leave Manchester United this summer. And, you know, the United Stand and Mark Goldbridge broke early this morning. And Mark Goldbridge said he's got his sources and said that Alejandro Garnacho will be gone this summer. Him and his channel were one of the first ones this morning. You know, they made this statement before Fabrizio came with these updates. So they were like one of the first ones to say that whoever they spoke to, that is their source, said that Garnacho is gone. And they put this update out there. So the rest followed. Fabrizio followed. And then, of course, before we went live, James Ducker in the Telegraph actually released a full-on article, which is where a lot of this news comes from James Ducker. Anything with James Ducker is from an article he put out, which was real in-depth and has a lot of interesting points here. And he tagged on right before we went live that United will likely accept an offer of £60 million for Garnacho amid interest from Chelsea and Napoli. So, I mean, they want 60 million. Maybe they'll end up accepting 50, but I think, you know, I used to say it's 50-50. I don't know. At this moment in time, I feel like it's 75-25. And I think maybe you could argue it for it being higher, but I don't think it's 50-50 anymore. I think it's certainly higher. A good increase in percentage that he will leave. So, you know, Fox says it's quite nuanced, to be honest. We have leaks from the higher ups about everyone is up for sale. We have players and agents going public, airing their frustrations. Equals make it much harder for us to get good fees. Well, that is one of the big major issues, Box. I mean, it is not easy, but maybe that doesn't necessarily maybe more so of the agents of the players. Maybe not leaks from the higher ups, because I feel like maybe we look at it like that, but again, they are in that bubble, and maybe that just doesn't have the effect that we think it does. But I can see definitely for the players' agents and the players themselves, with the players making statements and their agents contacting or talking to other clubs and saying, "Oh yeah, like he definitely wants out. Like they definitely don't want him." That definitely hurts when you go to the negotiation table, especially if they have a grudge or they're doing things out of spite because they feel aggrieved by the club, and so the agent's going to try and do the best possible job for their agent. That's why Fergie didn't like agents, because they're essentially snakes. They're cool with you when everything is good, you're giving them money and things are going well, but the second things get a little bit out of hand, the agents will, stab you in the back, and they will start throwing the club under the bus, and they'll start throwing everything under the bus. That's why Ferguson hated agents, because they're snakes at the end of the day. And I can't blame them to a certain extent, because it's their job to take care of their client. That's their job. But I get it. I get it. So, yeah, total shambles from top to bottom. No, it is. That's where we are. It's not really big news, though. It was already kind of written in the stars that he would leave. But I don't know. I feel like it was. I mean, I think it's a lot more confirmed now. I think at that point, I think it was really 50-50. But because I think they were considering it, but I think they were not 100% sold on it. But now it just feels like after his comments and after what transpired as well yesterday and him not getting picked, I feel like now it's not even just the club. Now I feel like it's not even just the club that are looking at it. I feel like he is probably going to push it now as well. Whereas before, I didn't really feel like he necessarily wanted to leave. It was more of the club was looking to sell him or potentially sell him. And he was like, well, I'd actually want to stay, but if you don't want me, I'll go. But now I feel like, well, they're looking to sell him, and he probably doesn't even want to stay anymore himself. So, how long is he still in the contract at United? I don't know. 3 years, says Box. Yeah, see, 70 million minimum. I don't think it'll happen. Singh says Alejandro Garnacho, Rashford, Anthony Santos, Rasmus Højlund will be leaving. Well, I hope so. I think you could try and demand 70 million lines, but I think kind of like what Box just said. I mean, if it's a public fallout and United are interested in looking to sell him and he doesn't want to be at the club, I think the price goes lower because of that. I again, we're not in a position that's really strong. It's not like he's such an exceptional. It's not like when we sold Ronaldo. Like when Ronaldo was hitting all highs and we were doing everything. We were desperate for Ronaldo to stay. We didn't want to sell Ronaldo. We wanted Ronaldo to stay. Ronaldo wanted to go to Madrid, and it was his dream. We still tried to keep him for one more season. And we managed, Madrid managed to pay to make it a little bit, to ease the burden, the pain a little bit more. But this isn't like that, It's not like that. So I think the fees start going down. The fees start going down once we're in this situation. Unfortunately. So, but we do have a couple more updates. So, Rasmus and Fabrizio. So Fabrizio saying Inter are considering Rasmus Højlund as an option this summer after Juventus and Napoli call in March. It's up to Man United. So apparently, according to Fabrizio, there's 3 Italian teams and big teams. I mean, Inter, Juventus, and Napoli. They're all quite top teams. Obviously, Napoli and Inter being better than Juventus, but apparently they're all interested in Rasmus. So I find it quite interesting because apparently if he's so shit, like some people say that he's an absolutely garbage and worthless, I don't know why a team like Inter or Napoli would want somebody so useless. I find it interesting. I wonder if, anything materializes out of this, I think he's also definitely one for sure that his future is up in the air, and I don't know what's necessarily going to happen. And I think he could be sold. So I think he could be sold for sure. I don't think he's safe by any means. I think a lot of them aren't safe by any means anymore. We even got this update about Kobe saying sources close to Kobe Manu claim he wants to stay at Manchester United, but has reservations about his role in Amorim's system. Now, this I feel like is less of a concern. I mean, sure, he probably has reservations about his role in Amorim's system. He since he's come back, he hasn't really been playing a lot. He hasn't been getting much minutes, and I feel like for a good part of the time, I think Ruben didn't even really know what to do with Kobe. But I don't think that for me, it would be really weird if Amorim was like, there's no way for me to use Kobe at his age and his talent, with his potential. I just don't see how you don't want to utilize a player like that for your rebuild. It doesn't really make sense. But I don't think Kobe from I don't think Kobe wants to leave, and I don't feel like Amorim necessarily wants to get rid of him. The only thing that I feel like may be an issue now is because of the things that I've been talking about. If these guys go full craziness and they just start selling fucking everybody, what if they go full extreme and they say, fuck it, we're selling Bruno, Garnacho, and Manu. Garnacho, pure profit, Manu, pure profit, Bruno, 100 million, boom. And they plan to go spend 400 million or something like that, or 500 million, which they can do if they actually do those things. They probably can do that because, again, everything is amortized and it'll give us a significant boost. But yeah, I mean, I'm not worried from Kobe's part, and I'm not really worried about Amorim's part, but I'm worried a little bit about the club, because while we are negotiating with him and he's been talked about, maybe we might potentially sell him. Again, I think these things are even more of a concern from a club standpoint, because I think I think there's a possibility they got to go super extreme. What does super extreme mean, and who avoids that super extremeness? I feel like if you go super extreme, I feel like nobody really avoids it. I think there's a couple players like Lenny. I think no chance that he gets sold. I think Maz, probably no chance he gets sold. I don't think they'll look to move on Delit. You know, in that aspect, but I don't think there's many of them. I would put Kobe in that. I would put Kobe in there, but the problem is that we've been getting these little stories here and there for quite a numerous amounts of months that they were considering maybe we should sell him. So I don't know. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. 20-year young, over 100 prem games, dude. Anything under 70 would be a steal, particularly if you go by the prices we've been quoted for players. I mean, yeah, but when you're in a shit situation, you're in a shit situation. So, Ratcliffe can buy 400 million on barbecues. Well, if he sponsors the barbecues by Ineos and then funnels that money into United, and yeah, let's do it. I can't see Delit and Maz being sold. Nah, I don't think they will. I don't think they will. But that's what I'm saying. It's a small handful. But other than that, again, I think, like, for example, Bruno, I think they don't want to sell him because of his ability. But I think what comes into play is the money. And it determines what they want to do. And they, again, you have to take, like, it kind of has to be like a cost effectiveness type of thing for the club. Like, obviously, they want to keep Bruno because they like Bruno and they think he's very good and skillful. And that makes sense. But now, because the situation has changed at United and we are at a big problem, he's really the only player. Bruno is the only player at the club that can demand and that can get you 120 million. Now, another thing they could do is, and let's say they're really trying to replace this 100 million, right? If they don't sell Bruno to replace the 100 million, well, then they could sell Kobe for 50. That's half. And then maybe they sell somebody else and they get the other half. And they get 250 millions, ones that they weren't necessarily too set on doing. So this is what I'm saying. Like, there could be repercussions, and I think there's going to be, that now because we lost this final, things that we weren't necessarily going to do, we might have to do it. And it's one way or the other, but whether it's selling Bruno or whether it's selling Manu, keeping Bruno, selling Manu, and selling somebody else, so you get 50 million for Kobe and you get 50 million for somebody else, and that's your 100 million. You know, so Manu is pure profit, so I can see them selling him like Garnacho, and that's what I'm saying. You know, they might have really wanted and been like, we don't really want to sell Manu. We can't be 100% against it because we might need money. Let's see what happens when we get and see if we win the Europa League and get to the Champions League. If we don't, we might have to do X, Y, and Z. Really, we want to do A, B, and C. And, you know, if we had it our way and we could make it so, we'd rather do A, B, and C. But now, because we've gone through it and we can't do A, B, and C, and we have to do X, Y, Z now. So I don't know, but I think everything at the moment at the club is so many questions, and I think the direction is completely lost. I think everybody is questioning everything. I think nobody really knows and can say effectively of what the hell is going to happen and what we're going to do and how we're going to be. I think it's just too much. We are, it just feels like we're spiraling out of control and nobody knows like what's going to come out of it, you know? Nobody knows what's going to come out of it. Lion says he just cleaned my glasses. Certain players that weren't planning and selling are probably now for sale, I fear. And that's the whole thing that I've been trying to say the entire show. You know, that's what I've been trying to get a point the whole entire show. I don't want to sell Manu. I don't think he should be sold. I don't even think Garnacho should necessarily be sold, at least not for another 1 or 2 seasons, and see what happens with him. I think it's too early. I like Bruno. I'd keep Bruno. I've also said that, you know, even before, if they offered us 120 million, I think still to do the rebuild. But I think now the consequences of what happened yesterday, players that we didn't necessarily might not want to sell, I think they have to seriously, strongly consider and looking at it to fix some of that. You know, like I said before, if yesterday's loss set us back 3 years, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, I think the reality of the situation is that they got to start looking at things so that it's not 3 years back. Maybe they get it down to 2 years back. Maybe they get it down to 1 year back, instead of 3 years back. Instead of being set 3 years back, they got to start looking into things to minimize the damage that is coming of what happened. So, you know, I don't know. Again, that's why I don't think it'll be boring. I don't think it's going to be a boring transfer window. I don't think we're going to sit there for a month and a half and be like, what the fuck is going on? There's nothing happening. I think there's going to be a lot of shit happening. And I think there's going to be a lot of shit that a lot of people aren't going to agree with. And I think there's going to be a lot of things that people aren't going to be happy about. And I don't know what it is going to be exactly, but I just think that a lot of things are coming because I just think that there's no other way. I think the club has gotten into a position where they are pinned in a corner. They have no option. Fox says, why can't we sell Rashford for 45 million? Because, well, I don't know. They might want 40. It depends on Rashford as well. Last time I read, Marcus Rashford apparently doesn't want a pay cut and won't accept a pay cut, which means he wants United to take a pay cut from the fee because he wants 325,000 a week wherever he goes, and obviously nobody's gonna fucking pay him 325,000 a week unless we lower the price. No one's gonna pay 40 to 45 million for Rashford and give him 325,000 a week. But if United are desperate to get him out and Rashford tries to drag it on, then maybe United have to go to whoever the club is. Maybe it's Barca. Tell them, listen, we want 40, 45 million, but this guy's making it difficult. So we'll give it to you for 30, but you got to take the fucking wages. You know, I don't know. But maybe. I feel like Rashford, we could possibly get 40 million. But he said Anthony for 35 million, Sancho for 25 million, Højlund for 30 million, Onana 20 million, Bayinda for 7.5, Malacia for 7.5, Shaw 15 million equals 200 million-ish. And that's fine. But again, the original plan and getting people like Gyökeres and all this sorts of stuff, the main plan, the big plan, was already factored in with the sale of Rashford, the sale of Anthony, and the sale of Sancho, and probably one or two other players. So we're still missing the 100 million. So if they want to do it to the extent that they gave us our best opportunity, they got to find the 100 million. Unless they just choose to not do that and go a different route. But I don't know. You know, I don't think that would work because I think it was already a problem. And also, you know, we need to get fees for these guys. I mean, I don't think anybody will buy Shaw for 5 million. I'm going to be quite honest. I don't think there's a single team out there that will offer. I don't think there's a single team that would make an offer for Shaw. So I wouldn't count Shaw at all. I don't think there would be a bid for Shaw in any way. I don't think there's a single team out there that would get Shaw. I think they would even be hesitant to get Shaw on a free and pay him 120,000 a week solely because of his injury record. So to pay money for Luke Shaw, I don't think there's a single team out there that's going to offer that. Malacia, yeah, I could see that MB in there, and Onana, and Rasmus if you know this Italian thing is going. But you know we still, you know, that's 200 million. And they say we have maybe 100 million, so that's 300 million. We should be able to spend significant amount of money. But we probably need to spend more than that then. Because we need to get more players. If you throw the sell-on clause for Alvaro, yeah, there's that sell-on clause. There's also the one with Greenwood, as you guys said. For sure. Lions would take him for free. Well, I know you would. Lions would bid £10 for sure and go fishing. Yeah. Listen, I mean, you go fishing, it would be good. It would be good. Yeah, that would give us around 225 million in total. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, you could get that money in through those sales. It's a lot of sales. It's a lot of sales. And it might take a lot of time. Hopefully it doesn't. I mean, we do have this update now that you mentioned Anthony. Manchester United have made Anthony available for around 32.5 million this summer. United need 32.25 million fee to avoid a loss under PSR. So like, but this is what I'm saying. Like the finances somewhere, it's fucked. They are not in a good place. So I mean, the fact that we're not, you know, last week we were talking about selling Anthony for 40 to 45 million. Now, you know, we're going to do it at 32.5 million because we need a 32.25 million fee to avoid a loss on the PSR. I mean, if we don't get the fee, we're going to be deducted points. We're going to start the season negative. We'll definitely be fucked. We can't afford that for sure. So, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of relying on transfers, like on sales, and that's going to take a lot of time. I think you can raise the money, like Box is saying, by getting rid of all these players. Sure. We still need some things to go right. You still need to get those offers. People need to be willing to give you that money. The player needs to be willing to go there. Those negotiations take quite some time, and if we only have a certain amount of money, we can only go so fast. So we might miss out on targets and stuff. We might not be able to go as fast as well. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot that, like, factors that have impacts. It's not, Fox isn't speaking fantasy. It's not like it's like, completely out of the, impossible. It's just like there's other things that, like, it sounds a lot easier than done when you just start listing players and giving them the price. And it's like, yeah, we could do that, but then also just like, remember that this shit is, it's usually a pain in the ass. The negotiations usually don't go that smoothly. They usually take a few weeks each. Sometimes they break down. Sometimes, whether it's because of the player or it's because of the clubs. And so then you have to kind of start over again and hope that there's somebody else out there. And, if one or two of the players, they only have one offer from one club and you can't come to some sort of agreement, whether that's the clubs or the player between the club, you're fucked. But the positive update, and I know there hasn't been a lot of positives today, but the positive update, James Ducker saying Real Betis want to sign Anthony permanently, which, like, thank God. Thank you. Because no loans. Please give us the money. Please take him. Let him go be Ronaldinho 7.0 for you. And let him do what he's got to do. And just please give us the money. And please don't drag it out, because we need money and we need to sell him and we don't need to deal with this shit anymore. So, I mean, it's a good turn of events, because they were talking about another loan and shit. If they want to sign him permanently, means they're happy, means hopefully they'll just pay the money. And this will be one that's not so painful. And can be done quite quick and can help us out in that instance. Box says Anthony's loan spell has been a rare success story. His form/value has been enhanced. Yeah. Yep, it's all a big pile of shit. We need Bowley-esque revamp ASAP. Well, we can't, I mean, yeah, it's just a lot harder than that. I mean, Bowley-esque would be, the Glazers and Ineos going and getting somebody that just can clear the debt and just fucking come in with like 500 million and just smash everything. So, where are emojis? Why can't I get, where's our shit? Oh, yeah, we didn't use them all. We didn't use them all. We didn't use them all. Where did they go? Where did they go? We didn't use them all show. Look, we got Trust the Water. We got a Delo one. We got Glory, Glory Man United. That's the 4 we have right now. I don't know where the other one went. Disappeared on my screen. But we got Newton. We got Newton Heath. Why is that disappearing? I don't know. But yeah, we got these 4 emojis. Trust the Water. You could be spamming Trust the Water. I don't know why they're disappearing from my screen. Are they disappearing? Or can you see them? Oh no, they're there. It's just glitching. Yeah, so we get that. If you want to become a member, you get access to those, and we're gonna get more, but we need people to become members so I could put in more. We can see them. Yeah, they're disappearing from my screen. I don't know why, but it's just a glitch. Yeah, I forgot to put those in there. Although they look kind of small, so maybe we have to resize them, Lyle. I don't know. Are they supposed to look like that? I can't tell. We can't put a timeline on greatness. Sancho will finally come good in season 5. Well, I hope so. But Box, it's like you could see what I got set up here. So here you go. Here's Sancho. Breaking. Jadon Sancho on loan at Chelsea will return to United this summer, but will be offloaded as one of the club's highest paid stars, along with Rashford. So yeah, trust, trust the water. There you go. Trust the water. Got the little emoji in there. Trust the water emoji. Yeah, I mean, Disco Mirror once again. I don't know if this. I still don't. I mean, it's not like Fabrizio has said this shit or something. So I searched for it. He didn't say it. So I still don't know if this is actually 100% true or not. Because I think if it was true, Fabrizio would have confirmed it and would have announced it because that's news. So, I mean, if Chelsea do send him back, we're obviously going to sell him. He's obviously not coming back. He's obviously just, it's not good because we could just get it over with easier and we could just get a fee from Chelsea and we wouldn't have to deal with it. But obviously, I mean, there's no path. There's no path back for him from United standpoint, and there's no way that he wants to be at United. And also, can I tell you, can I also tell you that when I went on to Twitter, because I went to go see if anybody else tweeted anything about this, put out any news about this other than the Disco Mirror about Jadon Sancho to see if it was actually 100% confirmed. I typed in Sancho, and the first thing that I seen was that Sancho put a picture of himself on Instagram, laughing like a prick, and said something, and it was pretty much because United lost the Europa League final. So, still major giant asshole. I fucking hate the guy. He's a fucking dickhead. He is an absolute top dickhead. And he's such a loser. Like, he's a loser. Like, he literally is a loser. Ornstein News pretty much spot on, says Lucky Singh. I didn't see that. Where was that? Sancho, in my opinion, is our biggest flop post Fergie. But you know what it is to me? It's his funny. What really gets to me is like his attitude. Because people say, Lyle said about that, like, he thinks like he said, like, Garnacho thinks he's like CR7 without the CR7, like, finishing or whatever. But it's like, to me, it's like the way this dickhead acts, he thinks he's like, he thinks he shit's gold and he's just shit. And like the way he carries himself and holds himself, he thinks he's like so elite. And it's like, bro, you can't talk shit when you're shit. You know what I mean? Like, you can't talk crap when you're fucking crap. Like, I never understand that. You can't, if you're shit, you can't talk shit. It's why, like, that's why where we are as a club, it sucks. Because it's not even like we could give something back. When Liverpool fans come to you, you can try. But in the reality of it, I mean, we're so low and we're so fucked at the moment that, like, there's nothing you can say back to them. At this moment in time, there's nothing you can say back to them. You can't. You just make yourself look like a fucking fool. And that's how I feel like he is. Like, this guy keeps opening his mouth, and it's like, dude, you do understand that you are an absolute clown, Like, you are, like, just a... like, if I could fucking tell him something in real life, I would. Sancho has had 4 disaster class seasons in a row. Even his loan spells at Dortmund and Chelsea have been underwhelming. A certain person in our community should have a go at Sancho and not box at me. Yeah, okay, I'll move out of that. Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know what happened. I gotta go back and look at that. I don't even know what happened, dude. I don't know. So, but yeah, just these little 2 things, I mentioned it before. James Ducker is saying, United have triggered a 10 million penalty clause payable to Adidas under the terms of the kit deal for failing to qualify for the Champions League. 10, just lose more money. You know, wherever we can. This is what I'm saying. We're bleeding money everywhere. We're losing money everywhere. Just, you know, another 10 million for for our failings. And you know, they come out with this. You know, James Ducker says that, you know, that will be partly offset by the 8 million in the club. By the 8 million the club stand to earn from the postseason tour of Asia next week. And like, but to me, I'm like, but that's a load of shit because that's the same thing as the 100 million. I mean, it's not like they're like, let's go do a tour of Asia to go offset the 10 million that we didn't expect to lose because we bet everything to win the Europa League. Like, the 8 million was supposed to be extra. The 8 million is not an offset of the 10 million. Like, so to me, that's just bullshit. You know? Like, the 8 million was supposed to be just an extra 8 million. It's not, like, technically, does it offset it? Sure, because instead of losing 10, we lost 2 because we're getting 8. But in reality, it's actually not even like that because you shouldn't have lost 10 and you should have got 8. So we should have had fucking, you know, an extra 8 million or 18 million, really. You know, so it's not, it technically offsets, but technically it doesn't because we scheduled this Asia tour, you know, well in advance. And I guess maybe they did it just in case. Maybe that's the whole point. But I still think that they was looking for money regardless, so all around. So I think they wanted the extra 8 million. Not for it to be offset by losing 10 and only getting an extra 2. And losing more money. So Fox says at least Anthony and Rashford have kept their heads down and focused on business. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's what you should do. But he's just a prat. You know what I mean? He's just a giant brat. Like, he's a fucking moron. If we get 35 for Anthony, would be a result. Grace with the super chat. Grace says super chats are mandatory, so here's my money. GS in. Gareth Southgate in. Oh, thank you, Grace. Appreciate the super chat. And we also have the memberships available if anybody wants to be a member, you know, and get a little badge next to your name and get the emojis. You know, I made them cheaper than other channels. You know, other channels, I think they charge you a standard $4.99, as far as I am aware. So, you know, I made them a little bit cheaper because I felt like it was the appropriate thing to do. So, if anybody's interested in those, you could get them. Rasmus Hoyland, sale 50.3 million. I don't know. Southgate, yeah. Southgate. Memberships are mandatory. Get out, says Grace. You're Grace, you know we have one here for you, right? I don't know if you can see that. But do you see that? We have I mean, you get access to this because you're a moderator. And moderators get access to these things, but we have one for you. This was we put this in when we were thinking about it. We put this in so that you can see it. We put this in specifically for Grace because we were like, this is part of the show now. This is part of the channel. We got little Delos, just, you know, armies of Delos. I don't got access. You don't got access. Well, Lyle told me that you guys get access, so I don't know. I didn't know, but Lyle told me last time, so I just listened to whatever Lyle told me. So again, apparently they don't get access. We'll have to look into that, Grace. We'll have to look into that. But I'll spam them for you, Grace. I'll spam Grace. Grace builds an army. I mean, yeah. I mean, Grace is gonna build an army of Delo in the chats now. I was wrong. LO mods have to join too. Oh, That's right, mods. Mandatory. Like Grace said. Grace, mandatory. Listen a lot. Grace is mandatory. No cutting the line. No cutting the line. No cutting the line. You gotta pay for it too. Um Let me see if we got any other updates before we get out of here, because I do gotta get out of here. But I feel like we might have gotten some some she. Um Here we go. We got going on. Yeah, I mean Chris Wheeler, like they said before, Chris Wheeler said a lot of players feel Ruben Amorim is too overconfident in his approach, cannot understand why he puts so much faith in playing a system that isn't suited to them. Yeah, I mean I don't. Yeah, I mean, even if that's true, even if the part is that, like, you know, even if it is, even if it's true that he's too overconfident in his approach and he's playing a system that isn't suited to them, I still am at the point where I don't care. I want the players held accountable. They've never been held accountable, and I want them fucking held accountable. And it's time to hold them accountable. Like, I'm tired of this shit. I don't care. Like, him putting that out there is not going to get me mad at Ruben Amorim. I'm not going to be like, yeah, fuck Amorim for doing that. Back these players. No, like, you fuck these players, dude. I'm tired of them. Time for accountability. Because you know what? At the end of the day, the managers have only been the ones that have been being held accountable, because the managers the only one that have been losing their jobs, and all these fucking guys don't. So I want the players held accountable. That's not going to do nothing for me. And how many times have we heard that story, by the way? How many times, regardless of who has been the manager, they've done it at Ruben Amorim, they've done it to Ten Hag, they did it to Solskjaer. Slightly different words, but they did it to Solskjaer. They did it to Ranić. They did it to fucking Mourinho. And they probably did it to Van Gaal. And I can't even remember if they did it to Van Gaal, but they probably did. And I mean, those players aren't even there, but you know, how many times are we going to keep hearing this same sort of story? Just rehash a couple words, change it around so it fits the story for this manager. With Solskjaer specifically, remember that they were like, they don't want to throw Solskjaer under the bus because he's a nice guy, but he's obviously tactically inept and he doesn't know what he's doing. It's the same shit. It's the same thing, different words, same vibes, same bullshit. Um, Same crap. I'm surprised we didn't get more news. Surprised we didn't get more news. Yep, a lot of people saying, players complaining, rinse and repeat, time to overhaul the squad. I mean, but it is, it really is, really is. Somebody sarcastically saying, "Yeah, why doesn't he play a back four like the manager they got sacked before him, and the one before that, and before that, and before that?" I mean, that's what I've been trying to say. I mean, play the back four, so they still got all the managers sacked playing a back four or not. Um, people coming out with extreme shit. I mean, I know they're half joking, but like, even Muppeteers said, like, add another year to his contract every time these leaks come out. Just more evidence squad isn't worth a manager adapting to. Um, and yeah, the barbecue thing here. United still went ahead with the end of season barbecue despite losing the final, though it's unclear how many players attended. So I guess it wasn't mandatory. I wouldn't have fucking went. To be quite honest, I wouldn't have went. I just don't see how you can go to a barbecue after what's happened. Um, no. Again, here we go. I got an image for you. I got an image for you. I got an image for you guys. We'll lighten up the mood a little bit. Shit, the big difference in 4 hours ago. How was the updates all messed up like that? Um, yeah, Lucky says if players can't adapt in any system, they need to leave. I mean, but if they can't just perform, I mean, again, this is the thing I'm saying. Like, they can't play Ruben's system, but even in the system that was there suited to them, they were still shit, and they still didn't really they still didn't really compete at the highest level. So they're not good enough either way. They're not good enough either way. Um, I had £2 and 69. I could only afford a super chat. I need to rob a bank or something. Grace, let's do a GTA heist later. We'll do a GTA themed heist. Me and you. Um, we'll go hit one of the the Diamond District, the jewelry stores in GTA style. We'll pull off a heist. We're gonna need a helicopter. We need some disguises, like masks and stuff. Somebody's gonna have to go in there and cut the alarm and stuff like that. We'll do like a three-way payout, or four-way payout, depending on how many people we need. Um, but Box says we need a back six. we might need a fucking back 11. Gray says Heaton, Evans, Lindelof, Eriksson going to free. Malacia, Anthony, Sancho, and Rashford will go. Plus Onana, Shaw, Bruno, Garnacho, and Højlund sell too. Yeah, I mean, listen, that's a lot of players. Obviously, Heaton, Evans, Lindelof, Eriksson going for free. That's good, because there ain't no work you got to do about that. So, obviously, then you got to try and move with Malacia, Anthony, Sancho, Rashford, Shaw, Bruno, and Garnacho, and Højlund. But again, like the sales, you can kind of just do that throughout. Obviously, you want to get a good amount of them to get the money so that we can get players in. So the quicker the better. But if it takes you till the end of the window to remove maybe 2 or 3 that are left over, we should be starting immediately selling from the second this. I mean, we should start fucking now, before it even opens, and we should just continue to try and sell as many as we can through the whole window, and just sell as many as you can. And even if it goes down to the wire and we still have like 3 or 4 left, push the last 2-3 days, push and try and get them out. LOL, nobody turned up. Axe turned up, I heard, to the barbecue. Well, I mean, here, if you want a glimpse of what was going on with the barbecue, I got you. Give me a second. I mean, this was an exclusive. This is a Red Devil experience exclusive inside. Nobody's broken this. Nobody's gotten this. This was Sir Jim Ratcliffe 2 hours before the barbecue. This was Sir Jim Ratcliffe 2 hours before the barbecue. He's gone and got a nice ninja wood fire barbecue. Kind of breaking the bank there on the barbecue. I mean, I think that barbecue is, well, actually, it's Ninja, so maybe it's not that expensive. But I don't know. That looks like one of those. I mean, it looks like a good barbecue. The barbecue grill and smoker. It's a 2-for-1. So, I mean, he's gone in there. He's gotten that barbecue. He's gotten that barbecue for sure. Somebody look that up. What's the price on that barbecue? What's the price on this barbecue? So, Jim, what are you spending? We don't got money to spend on. He went and bought a brand new barbecue. More than a barbecue. It's a grill, smoke, air fryer, bake, roast, and even dehydrate outdoors. Well, he's done a madness. Apparently. So, so Jim's gotten a fucking, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's got a 7-for-1. He's got a 7 for 1. 300. 300. Well, I mean, the big thing is though, I mean, who's grilling? Because they probably fired all the people that cook food. I think they fired the chef and shit. So who's grilling? So Jim's grilling? Um 300, that's too much. Who grilled at this barbecue? Because I think they fired the people that cook the food. So like, I guess the Jim said I'll do it. He's fired up the grill. Mine says I'm looking this shit off. Yo, we need to know. We need to know how much the Jim has spent on this fucking barbecue. This 7 for 1 barbecue. Box says, Line says, do banks still have money? I don't know. It's actually a good question. I mean, it's all just numbers on the screen, right? To some degree. To some degree, it's just numbers. It's just numbers on the screen. It's all fugazi. What do you think of Amorim's pregame comments? My job is done for today. Now it's on the players. I get what he means, but he's still key during the game. Yeah, I mean, I think he's slightly wrong in to a certain sense. I know what he means and I get what he means, and I agree with that to a certain degree, but also to a certain degree, like, your job can't really be done though, because you fucking, to a certain extent, yeah, because you've prepped them and you've told them what they got to do, and they're the ones playing the match, and they got to do certain things, and they got to take certain responsibilities. But also at the same time, your job isn't done though, because you're on the sideline and you're managing, and your job is to manage the game and your group of players. Making calls, out, giving players still instructions while on the sideline, substitutions. So, yeah, kind of. I don't really disagree with that. Gray said the next summer, Martinez, Maguire, Casemiro, Collier, and Mount to leave too. Well, yeah, maybe, probably. I mean, I guess it depends how it goes, right? Obviously people like Maguire, Casemiro. I don't know about Collier. I mean, I think it would depend how it goes for him. I think with Mount as well. It depends how it goes with him, and maybe Martinez as well. So, we got Goldbridge down to serve the drinks. If Goldbridge went there, they wouldn't let him in. Probably. I mean, he's not allowed to go there because of the things that he said. They definitely wouldn't let him in there. They wouldn't want him in there. 100%. And I don't think he would want to go down there. I think if he wanted to go down there, the only reason why he would want to go down there is so he can say some shit to Jim Ratcliffe. You know what I mean? And maybe some of the players as well. And just talk a bunch of shit. They had Jason Wilcox handing out full offense. Breaking news: Ineos have canceled the barbecue. I will now host a breakfast get together with the players with Cheerios and Kellogg's Frosties as options. You think they have milk, or they got to eat that shit dry? Grace. You think they're even gonna get milk to eat the cereal with? Or they just got to eat that? They're gonna eat that cereal dry. There's not even milk. You can't even put milk in the bowl with the Cheerios. Yeah, that shit is cooked. Time to get cash back in the pocket. I don't know. But listen. I think we're done for today. It's been a long stream. I gotta go take care of things because I gotta go. I gotta be up. I got things to do tomorrow. Grace says, and to save money, they will have to go milk the cows at the local farm to save a few pounds. Who are they sending to milk the cows? They send the, they would send Casemiro, I think. They would send Casemiro, and they'd probably send Garnacho, and Garnacho wouldn't be happy about it. I don't think Garnacho wants to milk no cows. They're sending people to milk the cows. We're fucking. But yeah, I think there was a lot to talk about. Lion says I would eat them. I would make them eat shredded Wheaties without milk after last night. Oh, that's rough. Can you even finish a bowl of shredded Wheaties without milk? I don't know if you could do that. It's like eating it's like sawdust. It's like eating sawdust. Has to be lactose free. It's like eating sawdust. Except obviously it doesn't taste like sawdust, but like, it'll still taste decently good, but it's like the equivalent of eating sawdust. Dude. No. That's like what we have in America. Like we have biscuits. So I don't know how to put this. Like your biscuits are different. So well, UK biscuits are different. I believe they're different. They're probably different. We got the biscuits, like the little fluffy pieces of like they look like a fucking they're like dough, like the rolls and shit. They serve them at like KFC here. I don't know if they have them in the UK. They might. Oh, they're like Yorkshire puddings. There you go. I know that because my stepmom is English and she's British and she makes them for me. So they like Yorkshire puddings, but slightly different and not really the same, but similar in the certain sense. It's dough and shit, like that. We got the biscuits. They sell them at KFC. You eat them with like your mashed potatoes and your gravy and stuff like that. And we have the running joke here that like you try to eat a couple of those biscuits with no drink, and you'll die. Like you won't survive. You won't get it. You won't get through. Like you try to eat. You get like a bucket of these biscuits and you eat like 2 of them. Say Yorkshire again, please. Yorkshire. 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 Get the bloody Yorkshire puddings. I don't know. It's sheer, Yorkshire. Okay. Yorkshire. It is Yorkshire puddings. You're right. I don't remember, but my New York accent doesn't allow me to say that. My New York American accent doesn't allow me to say sheer. It's Shire. Andero's here as well. It says, Eric, we simply have to sell the following: Bruno, Rashford, Sancho, Anthony, Garnacho, and Delo, which should get us 300 million. Put those out of contract. Thank you, Bruno. Great player. Wrong era. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of pretty much what we said. Not like to that extent, but just, I think no player is really safe. And I think just the club doesn't really have things that the club didn't want to do before we lost this final. They may very well have to do it because I think we have to make up 100 million. I think if and I said this, I think if you're gonna stick with the Ruben Amorim, and the problem was as massive as it is with the players, and obviously the players weren't good enough to begin with anyway, but if a massive part of the problem is that you need to rebuild for Ruben and change the entire dynamic of the squad, then things that they didn't necessarily want to do, they're gonna have to do now. So they didn't want to sell Bruno, they might have to do it, and I feel like they probably have to. So aren't your biscuits more like the English scones? Probably. Let me see. English scones. Yeah. They're more like that. How is it still different? Because it's like, I guess like the bread or something, or whatever, the dough or whatever. There's slightly They're more layered. I think there's more butter in it and shit that we put in. But yeah, it looks like that. They're pretty much the same. But I mean, if you want to see what it looks like, just type in like KFC biscuits. I mean, they might give you like home recipes, but like the real KFC biscuit, obviously, they look a lot more fattening. 100%. But we got those and Popeyes. So, um, Popeyes biscuits. Yeah, you try and eat those Popeye biscuits, they're dry as hell. No gravy, just by itself. You ain't making it. You need a drink. You need something. Yeah, I forgot bloody American Maltese. Lucky says glad doing contracts now. Anthony Santos, Alejandro Garnacho, Erasmus Hoyland, Show Cunha, Angel Gomez, Wisa, fresh project with manager. Yeah. He needs Premier League La Liga shopping. Well, I don't know. He needs a lot. Chad says, what the with the I don't know what he said there. With the Tyrick, uh, with the Tyrick hell, selling Bruno feels like a big signing. Feels like a big signing somehow. Well, I mean, it would give us a lot of money and a lot of play, and it would open things up. But yeah, I think I think if we won and we win the Champions League, I think you didn't necessarily have to sell Bruno. I feel like now you have to argue and say, well, you probably have to sell Bruno. Because I just don't think we're in a position to have our cake and eat it too. And I just kind of feel like the main plan, the strongest plan that Ineos had, which was going to be with the extra money from from winning the Europa League and going into Champions League. I think if they don't get to a spot where they can do exactly that and bring themselves back to that point to have that sort of strength, and some of it is already kind of impossible because I mean, we'll have to see, but it feels like the chances of Gyökeres are probably gone and evaporated, so there's not much you can do there. But in terms of the spending and the amount of players and what players we can get, if they go with this route of like, that was choice A, we're gonna do B, whereas like we're still gonna go and buy players and stuff, but just like the quality is gonna be a drop down, it's a waste of time. Because obviously we were already bad, and it was already in a bad situation for Ruben. So, it's like when they tell you like, you need a Ferrari because you're racing, other fucking Ferraris or cars on that level. And then they're like, yeah, here's, a Ford or some shit. Or whatever. Here's a Toyota. It's just like, cool, I have a car, I could drive it and we get on the track, but we're not going to be able to fucking compete. So Underos is saying that though, we have to accept that the prices we value our players at and clubs will be offering below this, so it will probably be much less unless there could be a bidding war. Well, yeah, I mean, I think for some players, yeah. I think for some players, I think you could probably still sort of, I mean, especially kind of with this Bruno and, Saudi Arabia thing. I mean, they might try to kind of lower it because we've lost a lot of money, and maybe they factor that in and they try to, get it down. But also, I mean, they really, really want him, and he's one of the few players where people will probably really, really want him and be willing to pay that amount of money. Maybe, you'll be able to get away with it there, and then maybe with a couple other players, maybe you might have to take 5-10 million less. So I'll pass on Popeye's biscuits with or without gravy. Thank you very much, man. Please, man. uh, and it opens everything up because nobody else guaranteed a position in the team. That's good. I mean, to a certain extent, yeah. We talked about this yesterday. You know, silver linings in the club. It could be a silver lining. It could be something that maybe we look back on 2-3 years. I mean, if they get it right and good things happen out of it. Again, I keep saying, again, I have nothing against Bruno Fernandez. I like him very much, and I still say he's a good player. But considering what happened yesterday, and considering the circumstances that the club is now in, because this is what it is. This is the, the repercussions of the result. I still look at Bruno, as much as I like him. I still look at Bruno as a Coutinho moment. I still see him in that capacity. I think it's different, the situation, because we've dropped so low. So instead of helping us, maybe finish, we're struggling for fourth and fifth and something like that, and finishing around there, and then taking Coutinho and selling him and getting more players in and propelling the club to third, second, and first, because you have a stronger squad and you can compete and get more points. I still see it in a similar way, as in you have Bruno. We're at a very low, low, low. We need a lot of changes. And you know what, Bruno, unfortunately, he might just have to be one of the sacrificial lambs at this point and say, listen, kind of like what Ondero said, good player, wrong time, whatever, wrong era, didn't work out. But we need this cash, bro. And you're the only one we could get it from. And we're gonna get rid of one player to get maybe 5 or 4 or whatever, Um you call it Lion King. Yeah, Lion King. I like that one. Gray says Garnacho's ego has ruined him. He has played over 100 plus games for us at 20, which is more than most legends. But yeah, I think part of that is probably, I mean, listen, ego can be a problem. Ego can be definitely a problem. But I don't think this. Again, at the same time, Grace, like, to be fair to the kid, and probably a couple other ones out there as well. This situation of the club hasn't helped either. So as soon as they get an ego, they have to go. But I mean, they all kind of have egos. It just depends how much of a problem, I guess, it is. I mean, Ronaldo had the biggest ego, but nobody gave a shit about Ronaldo's ego because he was scoring, 42. I mean, some people cared, but at the end of the day, scoring 42 goals a season, you can't moan about his ego. The problem is, and it's a good point, it's somebody like Sancho who sucks and has an ego and he's shit. That's when it's an issue. And that's why I said to Lions before, when he said if it was Rashford, everybody would have been going crazy. And I said, well, listen, some people can get away with things and some people can't, and it ain't fair. But that's life. And, same thing. Some people can have an ego, but because they produce goals and, they basically, you really can't complain about it. But then other players, if you're not getting the job done and you have an ego, well, it's a fucking problem. Yeah. Focus on the 5 to 6 first team starter signings and bring through 4 or 5 youngsters. Well, we probably have to do a combination of that as well, Grace. And the squad has to be smaller now. Like, I don't know how. I think that also impacts the fact that we probably do have to sell more players now because the squad has to be smaller. We don't need that big squad. We're not in Europe. There's not going to be enough spaces for everybody to play, and there's no point in having that many people and paying them a wage when they're not going to be used. So, we'll see. We'll see. Rashford had a better season than Garnacho. I don't think he did. I don't know if I would say that. I don't feel like he did. What stats Rashford got? Under says is ironic though. Our best player over the past 5 years could be the player who kickstarts the changing of the guard. The business will be doing is shopping in Asda rather than Sainsbury's. I get that reference a little bit because I've heard it before. Sainsbury's and shit. I've looked it up. Tesco. Gotta go to Tesco. Garnacho overhyped player again, but like I don't. But for me, again, the comparison is you're talking about Garnacho is overhyped, but Marcus Rashford is 27 years old. Like I think Garnacho can become kind of almost whatever he wants. Still at the age that he's at, I think Marcus Rashford probably can't, and he's had his opportunities and he's had all his chances. So, Matches Malone, I like that name. Said United has no eye for talent. They're going to buy Lukaku. Well, I hope not. I mean, we already bought Lukaku, and that was shit. Trampoline foot and whatnot. I mean, we certainly didn't have one in the past. I still think the signings that Ineos made so far, they're actually pretty good. They're probably better than anything we've done prior to that. So, I don't know. Let's see who they go get and who we get. Grace says I'll pass on anything that's currently on the shelves in American food shops. I don't need diabetes. Well, we're working on it. Well, I mean, we have stuff that is good. The problem is, Grace, it's really expensive, and a lot of people can't afford it. So what the majority of people can afford is, you're right. Bad shit. With a lot of fucked up chemicals in it, and I always knew I wasn't crazy because I used to say, I'd be here when I go to Malta. I'd eat all types of food, like pasta, pizza, and all types of stuff. And I wouldn't really gain weight, and I wouldn't really feel as bad. And also, I used to have like more problems with like my skin. I used to get like a lot of pimples and stuff like that. And as soon as I go there, it would all go away. And I'm like, and I would always tell them, I'm like, yo, I would try to tell the people there, and they wouldn't. Some of them would look at me like I was speaking like Chinese or something. Like, I try to tell them, I'm like, dude, there's something with, like, I don't know if it's the air, the water, the food, but I was like, something that's over here that's not in the food over there. I was like, there's something in our stuff for sure that's like fucking us up or making us sick or whatever it is. I'm like, I'm convinced by it because I was like, I don't understand how I constantly, if I stay here and I eat pasta and pizza like 2 to 3 times a week, I'll gain a bunch of weight. But when I do it there, if I work out regularly, I won't gain weight. And if I do it here, I'll gain weight. Like, it doesn't really make sense. And on top of that, I don't really drink here. Like, I don't drink alcohol. When I go there, I drink alcohol on top of that stuff, and I still don't really gain any weight. Barely. Last time I gained a couple pounds, like 2 or 3. That's nothing for like the amount of time I was gone and the stuff that I did. So, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. 31 next season, sell him. Yeah, I would. Especially at this point, I think it's not like he can keep us from the bottom half. Others had better seasons post Fergie. Bruno fans, the only thing keeping him going at United. Not really. I mean, they rate him highly. I mean, every manager that has come in has used him. They all rate him highly since he's been here, since he came in, which was under Solskjaer. They all rate him highly. All the people at the club rate him highly. So, like, it's not the United fans. Not the United fans. I mean, people were asking for Maguire to be kicked out, but he's still here. At one point, people wanted other players out. They're still here, not gone. No, Chad, please don't do that. Sancho is not better than Bruno. No, he's not. Please don't say that. Sancho wasn't liked by the media from day one. Sancho's not liked because he's a dumbass. I don't think so. I don't think so, Chad. I don't think that the threat of Rashford. I mean, you must be forgetting Marcus Rashford in the Manchester United shirt before he left. I mean, he was abysmal. Um, I mean, he was literally walking, and he literally wasn't getting anything done. So, vegetarian lasagna. I am afraid Garnacho has an attitude problem. I mean, he probably does. He's quite an emotional player. That will affect his potential to be a top player. Could very well be. It's always a factor. Definitely could be a big issue. If he doesn't get a hold of this, the top clubs will overlook him. Well, yep, yep. Nobody kind of wants those assholes at the club. You know, if you're more of a problem than a solution, then you're no good. You know, and that's kind of what I was trying to say before. Like, you know, Ronaldo had huge ego, still does, but you know, especially at that time, huge ego, but they didn't care. I mean, this is the same thing with Cantona and Ferguson. You know, Cantona was sort of he was a shithouse. He was a problem. He was at times nightmare for public things, statements, and stuff like that. But his talent was good. Um, that he was allowed specialty just solely because he was this sort of different person, but he was able to provide on the pitch. I remember one of them was telling a story about how, obviously Ferguson demanded everybody be in suits and shit when they show up to the match. And, Cantona showed up wearing some crazy ass outfit, with like, I don't know, shorts, pants, some weird shit. It wasn't a suit. It wasn't a tie. It wasn't to the dress code. And everybody saw Eric come in there and they were like, Ferguson's going to go fucking nuts when he walks in and sees this guy. And he walked in, saw Eric and said, "Hey, Eric, how you doing?" Shook his hand and then just walked out. And everybody was like, what the fuck? Like, if that was me, he would have gave me a bullocking and I would have had to go fucking change. And he probably wouldn't even have let me played. And they were like, dude, what the hell? Do I like rigatoni type? I mean, pasta's pasta. You can. It doesn't matter. You can make the pasta into whatever shape you want. It's all the same. Rigatoni, penne, capellini, linguine, cannoli, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. It's all the same. Garnacho has potential to be very good. Yeah. So did Makeda. I mean, not really though. I mean, Makeda had that goal, but when you watched Makeda after, it was just like, yeah, he really wasn't doing it. And that's all right though. But he still got the opportunities to try and do it. And then he was pushed out. So no. Well, listen, guys, I really gotta go because I gotta take care of things, and it's getting late, and it's getting too late. So I gotta go because tomorrow I got a big day, and I gotta get prepared for it. So I need to get off. But shout out to all of you. Appreciate all of you. Respect all of you. If you didn't smash the like button, please make sure you hit the like button and smash the like button on your way out. Because we need that, and greatly appreciated. So if you do that, thank you. If you've done it already, thank you. If you didn't and you do it on the way out, thank you. Appreciate that as well. 21 likes, so we're smashing the like game. 22 likes, thank you to whoever just hit that. Very much. I do try to plan on doing Friday freestyle tomorrow. I should be around for the scheduled time, which is around the same time as today. We went live at 8 p.m. UK. I'm going to try 8 or 8:30 p.m. We should be able to do it from what I understand. So if I can't, then I'll update through the Discord and I'll make a community post about it. But we should be able to do a Friday freestyle tomorrow. And then I also have to. I also got a big day on Saturday as well. So I don't know if we'll stream Saturday, but maybe we will. It depends how I'm feeling. But for sure, we'll get Friday. 110%. So um, big up tonight. Yeah, big up yourselves. So thank you very much. Appreciate you guys. So it's definitely maybe for tomorrow. No. I mean, for tomorrow, like I plan to do it. Because as far as I know right now, I should be, in terms of what I'm thinking in my mind for the schedule, I should be able to be home in time to do the stream. So my plan is to do it tomorrow. But something can pop up. Like if they tell me tomorrow when I'm at work and they say, we might have to work later or something, which I'm not aware of now, so I can't tell you. But if they say, we got to stay an extra 2 hours or something, then I probably won't be able to do it because 2 hours would be too much. 2 hours is 2 hours in extra work, and it takes me an hour and a half or 2 hours to get home. That's, I'd be home far too late for it to be a good time to stream. So I plan to do it tomorrow, unless otherwise being told. And then I'll have to let you guys know. But I plan to do the stream tomorrow. We should be able to do it tomorrow. I should be able to be home. So just be prepared for the stream tomorrow. So okay, I'll be waiting in my beer house. But if you're late, listen. Yeah, 8 p.m., 8:30 p.m. UK time. Worst comes to worst. I would ideally like to do it at 8 p.m. UK time. If I can't get it at exactly 8 p.m., which I feel like I should be able to. Worst comes to worst, it should be 8:30 p.m. the latest. So shout out to all you guys. I'm gonna get out of here. If you want and just support the channel a little bit further, get in the comments underneath the video after I end it. Get under the live, get some comments in there because it helps the channel. But shout out to all you guys. Appreciate every single one of you. It was a good show, long show, a lot of things to talk about. It wasn't, the most positive thing, and we're still kind of trying to get over from yesterday and figure out how to move forward. So, the fact that all of you showed up and was here, and talked and stayed as long as you did, amazing. The line says stay out of trouble, chat. All of you stay out of trouble, stay safe, be good. And I'll catch you guys later, and we'll speak tomorrow. Everybody have a good night, good evening. Take care. Thank you guys for the support. Appreciate you very, very much. And we'll talk